of the rotation of
Orlando. It's the 52nd Comp USA Florida Citrus Bowl. Steve Spurrier is a sideline legend in the making. Two coaches whose mutual respect is topped only by their on-field success. Two schools that haven't met in 35 years. And two programs that shared the top spot in the polls when the season began, and between them held it for 18 weeks. From Orlando, we get set for the Nittany Lions of Penn State against the Gators of Florida. We'll have the kick after we check in with John Saunders in New York. Say, with access to over 50,000 computer products, CompUSA is the computer superstore. By new Edge Pro Gel, lose the foam, save your skin. By Burger King and the new Burger King fries. They're hot, crispy, and delicious. And by Chrysler, engineered to be great cars. We get set for Penn State and Florida, the 52nd CompUSA Florida Citrus Bowl. Happy New Year, everybody, from Orlando. A clear, crisp day here in Central Florida. Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson set to bring you this game. Earlier in the week, we were talking about Penn State being linebacker you, Gary, and I said, I think with Florida, it's come at you.
Well, I think you're right. You know, they do it both defensively and offensively. Today, you're going to see Steve Spurrier not just run the fun and gun from the sideline. He's going to rotate quarterbacks like he did against Florida State. But defensively, second-year defensive coordinator Bobby Stoop, how much do they attack? They don't even have a back pedal drill in practice, pregame, or the game.
Well, for Penn State, obviously, they're missing two key ingredients. Curtis Enos, through his dealings with an agent, his career is done at Penn State. Joe Juravicius, because of academic reasons, is out as well. It's a big hole to fill for Joe Paterno.
Yeah, Curtis Enos was the Big Ten's MVP on offense. And, you know, like Penn State, like their uniforms, they don't have names or anything. We're going to see some nameless, faceless guy run the ball, catch the ball, and make some tackles. Penn State needs some turnovers on defense, but not a bad prelim for the heavyweight coming up later.
Well, they've got the guy on the sideline, Joe Paterno, and you don't win 18 bowl games by getting nervous in a situation like this. Let's go down to Dean Blevins. Dino?
Greetings to you, Brad. And, you know, most people not really giving Penn State much of a chance to win this ball game. A couple of reasons. You know, this club in Florida is very dangerous, and they have what is effectively a home game. And the second thing is that Penn State, of course, is dealing with the adversity of losing those two stars. Joe Paterno, though, told me yesterday, this is not adversity.
Somebody asked me about adversity. I said, this isn't adversity. I had adversity in 1972 bowl game. We played Oklahoma in the Sugar Bowl. John Cappelletti woke up in the morning with the flu, couldn't get out of bed. Backup tailback had hurt in the second play. We didn't have a third one ready. So Gary Heyman was a wideout. He played tailback against a great Oklahoma team. So, you know, that was adversity.
That night, the Selman brothers got all over John Huffnagel and company, and Joe Paterno is hoping it doesn't go that way today.
Well, Joe Paterno is a magical blend of the past and the present. He can turn on those memories like that, but he's very well aware of what's going on today. And as I said, you don't win 18 bowl games by not knowing what you're doing on the sideline. On the other side, Steve Spurrier. Somebody talked about him being the young gunslinger against the old Marshall. Well, he's in his 100th game as head coach of the Gators, and he has got the Florida fans wound and ready in Orlando. We're happy to be here. It's a perfect football day. And Florida with just a bit more than a dash of flash. And they're wearing all blue uniforms for only the second time in the last 5 years.
Brad, when you look at this Florida offense, you think that they do a lot of fun and gun things, but they do a lot of simple things, and it's all based on 4 legs of the table: repetition, precision, communication from the coach and the play caller, Steve Spurrier, and then the whole basis of this football team, very similar to the great ones, is competition. If you don't do it right, they got a bunch of guys coming right behind you. During this football game, we're going to show you how simplified this offense is. It's just the precision that that man demands that makes it so tough to stop.
Demands execution. You're exactly right. Penn State won the toss, and they deferred. So Florida will have their receiving unit ready, and there you see the all-blue uniforms. Other than the Florida State game during the regular season this year, you've got to go back to a '92 bowl game, the last time they broke out all blue.
Well, that was pretty good luck for them against Florida State.
Right.
Brad, you know, a lot of people might think that Joe Paterno is involved kind of like just the patriarch of this thing. We have seen him the last few days here. He's been walking from one meeting to another on the practice field. He had his nose in every drill, and he's just not here observing today. He is coaching full time. It's not just Steve Spurrier that's involved. This guy is involved 100%.
I was telling somebody yesterday I was in the convention level of the hotel when all the meetings were going on, and it was like Joe Paterno at 71 years old was the lead dog with a sled of guys behind him.
He really was, wasn't he?
We're set for Penn State and Florida, and the kick going deep in the end zone and out of the end zone. So Florida will work from its own 20-yard line to start things off. And we check the Florida starting lineup. Up front, the Biggins. Wiley Rich is the only senior. Mo Collins, the only one that started all 11 games with the Florida team this year. The wide receiver, Jaquez Green, one of the most dangerous receivers and return men in the country. And in the backfield, we'll see at least two quarterbacks today, but we know we'll see a lot of Fred Taylor, number 21, the starting tailback. And Florida opens with a 3 wideout set. And Aaron Kinney now over on the wing as the tight end. And on first down, it's Taylor. And he's got a nice opening off the right side and goes for almost 8 yards before Aaron Collins can track him down. Defensively, for the Nittany Lions, up front, Matt Fornattle's the smallest, but he's also the leader with Fleischauer, Karpakis, and Courtney Brown. The linebacking core, Jim Nelson and Aaron Collins make their 37th straight start together. Brandon Short, the other backer. And in the secondary, a change today in Derek Fox starting at the free safety spot with Macklin, Lee, and Prater. And on second down, and Short, and quickly up the middle, and a first down out to the 34-yard line. 7 more yards for Fred Taylor. Sean Lee made the tackle.
Well, everybody made a big deal out of the rotation of the quarterbacks in the game with Florida State. It was caught, I think, Florida State completely off guard. Penn State is ready for it. But if Florida can run the ball right up between the tackles, it ain't going to matter if you and I line up there. That's going to be trouble for Penn State's defense.
First down out to the 35-yard line. And that is Noah Brandeis, and we will keep you abreast as to who is in the lineup at quarterback. He audibles at the line from the 35. Gives it off to Taylor. We're going to gaping hole off the left side, and Fred Taylor's got a dozen more. Chino Prater finally brings him down. This is what gave Penn State's defense fits in their 2 losses this year.
Well, really, in November, Penn State, when they played 5 games, just had a disaster trying to stop the run. The last game against Michigan State set records against them. When we talked to Jerry Sandusky yesterday, he knew that it was a problem.
Yep.
There you see in November, they don't ever want to remember back in the Happy Valley, averaging 448 yards a game in total offense, and most of that on the ground.
Jerry Sandusky's not exactly a stand-up comedian, but he had a great line. He said, I was player of the year, or coach of the year in Michigan this season. Here's Taylor again, all the way down to the 40-yard line, 12 more. Fred Taylor on his way to a huge day, unless the Nittany Lion defense can find a way to slow him down.
All right, let's talk about this matchup a little bit, Brad. Florida, when they have the ball, their reputation is receiving. That's a bit deceiving, if you ask me. Their stats are very similar. Run and pass, they're very balanced. And the blitz, Penn State is going to try to put pressure with 3 men rushing the passer. That's what LSU did. That's what Georgia did. By the way, those are the 2 games that Florida lost.
So Florida started this drive at its own 20. They've already moved to the 40 of Penn State. And here comes Fred Taylor. This time stopped for no gain.
Where's the fun and gun?
Hasn't been a pass yet.
They're hitting him with the butt handle of the gun right now, aren't they?
Fred Taylor, 1,292 yards, the 4th best season ever for a Florida tailback, and that says a lot when you consider the guys that have played in that uniform, including Eric Rhett and Emmett Smith and company. And that's the first time he's been stopped for no gain, but he does have already 40 yards rushing on this opening drive. Play action, and the first throw of the day is a strike down the middle and complete down to the 21-yard line to Travis Woodruff. And a pickup of 19, so there's the gun.
There's the gun, and it was a rifle shot from Doug Johnson. Steve told me on the field just before the game that he's never had a guy throw the ball as hard as Doug Johnson. But watch how simple it is. Brad, there's the button hook.
Yep.
Remember the button hook? You go down there in front of the fire hydrant, just button hook right in front of them. Now, what's so fancy about that? Everybody's got that play. They just teach it and demand perfection.
Brindise back in. There's Noah's numbers on the year. Efficient numbers for the former walk-on. Here comes a blitz. He loads and goes far side, and an acrobatic catch, but out of bounds. Jacquez Green, and that shows what he can do.
Great defensive play that time in the secondary. Derek Fox, the new starter, came across, but David Macklin made the play. We talked about simplified. This is the precision. It's a fade route. It's going to go wide. Watch Jacquez get up. But remember, the college rules different from the pros. If you shove the guy out of bounds, it's not a completion. And this time, Macklin did the job and got Kwesi out of the bounds there.
Kwesi with great body lingo, though, to pull that in. The 8th play of the Florida drive that's opened things up here in the first 3 minutes of the ball game. Johnson to throw, fires out a dangerous pass, but caught by the tight end, and he's got it. Aaron Kinney to a 1st and goal for Florida.
The tight ends have been a nightmare for this Penn State defense the second half of this season. There's the 3 receivers. Here's the tight end. When he's in a flex, he runs a lot of flat routes. Kwesi's going to come in and run the little hook. Flat curl. Passing 101. Problem is they got a quarterback that's up about the 500th level in his undergrad studies and throw the ball. 1st and goal at the 8-yard line. Taylor the single setback. They toss it to him. He fakes as if he was going to give it back to Brindise and goes down to the 5-yard line on the ground. Don't you think they have that play later in the game? Yep. In the red zone, Florida very efficient. 43 touchdowns of their 48 successes and 84%. And so Doug Johnson comes in with the call from Steve Spurrier. Doug Johnson's numbers, including 7 touchdowns in 1 half of a game this year. From the 5, Taylor inside, spins. Did he get there? He's very close, but stopped inches short of the goal line. And even on that play, they had a fake end around going on. Well, Steve loves to give you a lot of razzle-dazzle, but the lot of 5 guys up front are the one that are winning this game right now. The blocking that offensive line is handling this Penn State defensive line very, very simple. And Brindise straight ahead quarterback sneak touchdown. The basics got to Penn State, as Gary so aptly pointed out in that opening march, and they take it 80 yards for a touchdown. Can't get much more basic than letting your quarterback go in from a yard out. I think they threw 3 passes, if I'm not mistaken. One of them was completed out of bounds. The other 2 were completed to receivers. It was a precision drive. And as nice as Steve said all the things this week and all the razzle-dazzle and all the fun and guns things that were said, you knew he was going to come out and attack the weakness of Penn State this year, and that's being able to stop the run. Collins Cooper in for the point after. Young to hold, got it down. Cooper's got it up and through. With 10 minutes and 49 seconds to go, first quarter, opening march takes Florida to a touchdown. Our Bowl Bash continues. The granddaddy of them all coming up, the Rose Bowl. Undefeated Michigan trying to win a national crown against Washington State. Charles Woodson against Ryan Leaf. That is all next here on ABC Sports. Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson, and Dean Blevins in Orlando. The Comp USA Florida Citrus Bowl, all Florida Gators so far. But Penn State has not had its chance yet, and they're set to receive. Robbie Stevenson to kick. Kenny Watson and Chris Everly are back for Penn State. And a little indecision, but Everly camps under it at about the 3 and goes straight up the middle and gives Penn State nice field position out across the 30 and close to the 33-yard line. As we take a look at the Penn State offense and their starting lineup, the big uns up front. Phil Ostrowski is the only first-team Big Ten member that is here, with Curtis Enos having been suspended, so he's a first-teamer.
Shafi Fields now has to pick up the slack with Jurevicius out. He's dangerous on end arounds as well. McQuarrie the quarterback, Eberle, Anthony Cleary in the backfield. They'll rotate tailbacks throughout the day today. First down, Penn State from its own 32-yard line. And to give to the 35-yard line is Cordell Mitchell. And just when I told you Eberle was starting at tailback, it's Mitchell. They will rotate those guys throughout the day. Defensively for Florida, Mike Moten went from being a backup player to a first-team All-SEC performer with Coens, McGrew, and Rogers. Johnny Rutledge is a leading tackler on this team with Dwayne Thomas and Javon Curse. In the secondary, it's a good one, even though they had to retool this year. Fred Weary is an All-American. 6 interceptions back there with Williams, Harris, and George. Second down, 7, Penn State. McQuarrie loads it and goes to Scioli, had his hands on it, but dropped it. Tony George made sure he dropped it, and it'll bring up third down.
When you look at this matchup when Penn State has the football, let's look at the profile between the two teams right here. Penn State on offense is going to play a little basketball. Think and dunk. They're going to want to throw the short pass like they did just there to Scioli. Only problem is you got to catch it. And on defense, little Sandra Bullock. You got to have some speed free, because this is speed here.
You guys are something. That dink and dunk came straight out of Fran Gainer, the offensive coordinator's mouth, though that's what he called it. Let's see if they can come up with enough for a first down here, and they do. Complete out near the 45-yard line to Cuncho Brown, the tight end.
Brad, this Penn State offense has been living the last 3 or 4 years. Even their close to national championship team in '94 was not a great defensive unit. So there's no surprise faces on this offensive unit for Penn State. They're used to playing in high-scoring games. Remember, they beat Ohio State in a high-scoring game. The game plan is to move the chains. I really think they would rather have a 12-play drive for a field goal than a 3-play drive for a touchdown.
And you saw those 2-minute and 40-second scoring drives over 53 times this year. Here's Mitchell. Might have eked out a yard. The Florida defense is a tough group. They're second in the country against the rush, giving up only 71 yards a game.
They are. When you talk to Fran Gainer, the offensive coordinator for Penn State, as he prepared for this game, he said when he turned on the film, the first thing that jumped out of him, it didn't take him 5 plays to notice the front 7, how they get upfield. Penn State is one of the better trapping teams and off-tackle teams in college football. Let's see if they can take advantage of it. They have to.
Second down and 9. Here's a counter. Mitchell dancing around in the backfield. That's exactly what Gary was talking about. Tremendous penetration by that front group of Florida, and they had Mitchell dancing around 4 yards deep in the backfield.
Javon Curse that time blew that play up before it got started. He's an outside linebacker / defensive end. He was just reading it upfield and just filling backside. There was no place to run. When the cutback lane is covered up like that, that is a problem for Penn State.
And here's a problem for any team. Third down, 14. From the 40-yard line. McQuarrie has to roll and throw on the run. And it is intercepted. Picked off on the corner by Fred Weary. And Weary across the field looking for a block. And he's got it back to the 35-yard line, his 7th interception of the season. "15-yard return after the pick, and he's got it back to the 35-yard line.
Fred Weary right here baited the whole time. He knew where the ball was going. He stayed outside. He let the ball be thrown, and like a basketball player in a zone defense, just came across and picked it up, and if he could dunk it, he'd have dunked it right there.
Pettigrew was the intended receiver, and that's why Weary was an All-American this year. Johnson now to Jacquez Green, and he got a touchdown. "35 yards just like that."
Well, you really can't cover anyone any better than this. David Macklin was right on the spot. Now, when this ball precisely thrown to the outside is in the air, I don't know whether it's going to be an interception or a one-handed touchdown. Let's give it to Kwesi, the All-American, right?
Well, Macklin had his hands on it. Jacquez Green ended up with his hands on it. Touchdown Florida. And Collins Cooper to try to make it 14-0 does. Florida right early. And they lead by 2 touchdowns with 8 minutes to go first quarter. Reception of the year.
Jaquez, you know what I like about him, Brad, is he's got the breathe right, so he breathes right. He's got the earrings, so he looks right.
Yep.
And if you look down at his gloves, he's got catch right gloves on. He's got it all together. And it was thrown pretty good, too.
Yes, it was. It was a low line drive from Johnson to Jaquez Green, and Florida leads by 2 touchdowns. Kickoff. Taken at the 9-yard line. And up to about the 24, and that's where Penn State will have to go to work. We're going to go to New York right now, check in with John. Here in Orlando, too, as the Gators lead over the Big Ten, 14-0. And Penn State from its own 24. Mitchell in motion to the far side. It's a draw play inside, and it goes nowhere. Loss of a yard.
Well, we documented at the beginning of this game, Brad, what Penn State is missing. And although Joe did not want to talk about it, there it is right there. It's something that you really can't run away from. Between Curtis Enos and Joe Jurevicius, 52% of their offense. And you can see what percentage of their touchdowns came from those 2 players. Now, they play the 2 positions that get most of the opportunities,
right.
So someone's just going to have to come through.
Second down and a long 11. McQuarrie, quick drop, throws high, intended for Shafi Fields on the far side and incomplete, and it'll bring up 3rd down and long again.
So you can see the difference right there. The Florida receivers are no more open than the Penn State receivers are. It's just the precision of the passing game is just advanced at Florida. When you watch Florida practice, all 4 of the quarterbacks who are throwing balls look and act the same. Now, they come off a little different off their hands, but they look, their style is all from that man right there.
Mike McQuarrie's off to a 1-for-4 start with an interception, and he'll be asked to throw again on 3rd and 11. Screen pass. And out to the 32-yard line is Cordell Mitchell, but well short of the first down. And the Nittany Lions will have to punt.
You know, that play looked like it was set up very nicely, and that's one of the plays you wonder, could Curtis Enos have picked up that first down? Now, Joe's not going to talk about it. I'm sure Curtis Enos is watching this game, and he feels as bad as you can that we're even saying that, but that play was pretty well set up, and the Penn State tailback didn't get anything out of it.
Jaquez Green, a dangerous return man, has 2 punt returns for touchdowns this year. And Pat Pigeon set to give it up to him, and it's a line drive, but it is going to take a bounce out of bounds, and that'll keep it out of the hands of Green as it goes out at the 27-yard line. Steve Spurrier, Florida, leading 14-0. Gators in good health right now in the first quarter. They lead 14-0 with 6:24 left in the quarter.
Looks like they took their vitamins too.
Yeah, I think so. There's what they've done so far. 12 plays, 2 touchdowns. They work from their own 27-yard line. Taylor only got about a yard that time. LeVar Arrington ran him down from the backside, and he is a young man that looks like he's going to be an impact player defensively for Penn State in years to come.
He really is. He only got to start 1 game this year for Penn State's defense, and that was against Purdue. By the way, I think Purdue probably is as close to any offense that Penn State has seen all year, and oops, bad news. Purdue put 500 yards up on it.
Here's 5 receivers. Johnson throws a screen out to the wideout. Mulcairo. Penn State did a nice job defensively. Amani Bell got way out there from his defensive line spot and made the stop.
There you see Steve. He kind of dials up one of those tricky plays. Steve will call the plays sometimes if a certain quarterback is in the game that he wants to be in. This time he wants Doug Johnson to throw this play. You saw the gun. He kind of gave him the signal of a shotgun type stance right there, or some type of a play. But Steve just kind of calls him from the hip. Nothing fancy.
3rd down and 8. Johnson has time. Buzzy Green on his hands out. Got a pretty good shot back there from Shino Prater to break it up. Let's check in with Dino on the sideline.
Well, following up on what Gary just talked about, it's a great advantage for Florida to have Coach Spurrier on the sideline and be able to talk to the quarterbacks. Brandeis told me before the game that he'll often say, a blitz is coming, go to cover 2 or look for cover 2. Here's what we'll do. Yesterday he had a great one when we asked him about the sophistication what do you do, Coach, if you have a quarterback you want him to stay in or come out? And he says, well, if we want him to stay in the ball game, we do this. And if we want him to come out, we do this.
That's a hand forward and a hand back. It's not that flashy sometimes. And a bad kick out of bounds at the 48-yard line.
The wind has been up all through Orlando the last few days. Both teams had struggled throwing the ball in practice. And it's a little bit windy down in the field, but nothing that bad where it should affect that type of punt. That was just the old shank. And Penn State finally had something good happen.
Only a 22-yard punt and good field position for Penn State when we come back. Preparation for this game, and they have had a lot of fun, obviously, in the land of Disney, including orange juice, man. That's the way you make orange juice when you got big guys.
That's right.
You don't need a squeezer or anything. Just get those linemen out there, the big uns, and they'll make it for you.
Give me a gallon, sir.
Alternating quarterbacks is cool, and Florida has done that effectively here in the first quarter to a 2-touchdown lead. But Mike McQuarrie's been handed excellent field position now by a bad punt. And Penn State works from its own 49-yard line. Heavy pressure on McQuarrie, hit as he is trying to throw the ball. And boy, that just, the floodgates opened right up the middle.
I think that was Mike Moten, and he is really an interesting story for this defense. A lot of flash and dash to the outside, but this defense really comes from the inside. Anthony Mitchell, number 98, is the guy who put a lot of pressure on. But the defensive tackles, Brad, Moten, McGrew, and Chester are guys that must be blocked by those guards and center for Penn State, or it ain't going to matter how fast the other guys are.
On second down, Eberle hit in the backfield, spins off, and he will not get back to the line of scrimmage. Maybe did at the very end.
That time it was Reggie McGrew. Brad, this defensive line was braided by a lot of the preseason polls as the best defensive line in the country coming in. Tell you how good they are. They got 4 starters. Well, 2 of their backups were all SEC players a year ago in 1996, Chester and Beauchamp. A lot of competition. That's that formula. That's that 4-legged table that Steve uses.
And 90 there, you mentioned Moten. He's a guy that due to injuries was a backup, and he turns out to be first-team All-SEC with his performance on the field. Penn State, only 1 third-down conversion so far. They've got 3rd and 9 here. McQuarrie loads it and going long for Fields, and nobody home back there. Covered by Mike Harris. And so Penn State squanders great field position. They end up getting a yard out of 3 plays.
Brad, Penn State only sent out 3 receivers that time. Florida had a dime package on. There you see the technique. It was a zone that time by Florida. Williams turned him over to Mike Harris. Really no one to throw for. Penn State was anticipating a blitz. They got a zone. Uh-oh.
Second straight 3 and out for Penn State, something that Florida under Bobby Stoops has been very adept at in the last 2 years. And it'll be Pat Pigeon to punt. Maybe just got it away. Green lets it go, and it will make the end zone. So only about a 30-yard net out of that punt because it'll come out to the 20-yard line. But they got close to Pigeon on that rush of the Penn State punter. Monday yard line now. Florida with a 2-touchdown lead and a little over 4 minutes left in the first quarter. And they give it on a handoff to Ross, the tight end. And Taris Ross got 9 yards on the carry.
Well, a little bit of flash and dash again in the running game. Tight end, little sweep that time. Brad, let's talk about Noah Brandeis, the starting quarterback in this football game. He is forever going to be remembered about Florida for his drive to win that game against Auburn, a 97-yard drive where he hit 3 big completions to keep this team alive when a lot of things were going bad for Florida earlier in this season.
Doug Johnson, known as the man that threw the rocket that beat Florida State. So those guys both have their own reputations coming in. And a pickup for Taylor. He's the consistent guy in that Florida backfield. Taylor with a couple-yard gain will bring up 2nd down and 8. When you think about Florida's season and the highs and lows that they did have over the course of the year, of course, beating Peyton Manning, they always cherish that over Peyton's 4-year career. But they got ambushed by LSU through some interceptions that LSU turned to an upset. Gary mentioned the great job Florida Georgia did rather against Florida in a 20-point win. But then the victory over Florida State, obviously a high point of their regular season. That is a 9-2 year. And when you're defending national champions, I guess a 9-2 year is disappointing to some. But certainly another excellent campaign for Steve Spurrier in Florida coming into this one.
You know, everybody, when I found out I was going to do this game with Spurrier and the rotating quarterbacks, they kept saying, Gary, you could never play for that, could you? I think I could. It might not work in the pro game because there's so much money involved with that position. But here in college, I think when you got a guy like that who can teach you what he knows, you got to just sit there, take all you can in, and understand he's going to make you a better player.
Well, Doug Johnson's going to come over and take a little more in because there was some confusion between coach and quarterback there. Today's aerial shots are being provided by the Bud One Airship, which reminds you that fresh beer tastes better. A look at the Citrus Bowl in Orlando. As Gary mentioned, it's been kind of a cool week, but today sunny skies, and it is starting to warm up a little bit. Obviously, the state of Florida, the entire state, has had more rain over the course of the last couple of weeks than they probably have in the whole year, much less in a 14-day span. But the last couple of days, bright sunshine, perfect day for football here for the 52nd Comp USA Florida Citrus Bowl.
And we were all saying down on the sideline, all us Northerners were saying, what a great day for football down here. And Steve goes, I'd rather have it 85 and hot.
He's got the golf shirts, though. And we've got the citrus in a nice ABC fashion there. What do you got? Grapefruits, oranges. What are the tangerines make that dark?
Oh, yeah, that is.
Yeah.
The tangerines make the state of Florida very good.
Yes, very nice.
Adjust your set accordingly, right? If you're watching
yellows and oranges.
Yeah, if you're watching in black and white, never mind.
That's okay. Second down at 3. 2:31 left first quarter. Green in motion. And they go straight ahead with Taylor's again. They fake the end around. Taylor broke a tackle. He's got a first down and a tough run out near midfield for Fred Taylor.
It's like a magician almost. You know, the sleight of hand, everything's happening all around this play, but it's just a very basic play. Watch this. None of the linemen do anything. They just block the guy straight in front of them. One man passes by, but it's almost sleight of hand.
Yep.
That time right up the middle. No one even blocked Jim Nelson that time. He runs right by the ball carrier.
And before you know it, you realize the lady really did get sawed in half.
That's right.
That's right. Out to midfield, first down. And there's what Florida is doing on first down. Almost 9 yards of pop. Their first down here will be 9 more at least. How about 11 for Taylor? Huge chunks of yardage for Fred Taylor so far in this first half, as he's got 80 on 12 carries, and we have not even completed the first quarter.
This time Rod Frazier, listen to that number 40 right there, right side of the screen is the guy who got the blocks. Rod Frazier, the brother of Tommy Frazier, the old guy that put the nightmare on Florida a few years ago back in the Fiesta Bowl. Now Rod said, I'm going to block for this guy.
Johnson back to throw and going deep, and there just overshot Jaquez Green.
Oh my.
Who has he got some burners though?
Not only that, that ball had some rocket jet to it too.
A little too much on it,
Woo.
maybe.
Now, I mean, he didn't put a lot of air on this thing either. This thing was a rocket about 50 yards in the air. Green says, I got it, I got it. Oh my, just off the edge. And as any quarterback coach will tell you, if you're going to miss 6 inches long rather than 3 yards short, because those are interceptions, and that's exactly how you throw the deep ball. All the Penn State defensive backs now will take 3 steps backwards. Mother may I.
Second down at 10. 2 tight ends set now for the Gators. Here comes a blitz. There's the flea flicker. This time they do run it. Brindise down the middle and complete to the 20-yard line of Travis Taylor. Gary said they'd come back to it. I didn't know it'd be this quickly.
They come back to it, but they always have a safety valve. Instead of just throwing it as far as you can and throwing for the home run, they have a safe man to throw to. This guy's going to go long. If it's wide open, this guy is going to come right in this area for the safe throw. You get the little toss. You get the hand back. There goes the deep guy. Here's the safe guy. Penn State, you read the rules? Good. We'll take first down.
At the 20-yard line. With Johnson at the controls, play action, plenty of time to throw to the end zone, and overshot everybody. Yeah, nice coverage by David Macklin.
You know, Penn State defensively has been very sound. They have been doing what they've been taught to do. They've just been sitting in their zone. Jerry Sandusky is hoping for one of those Vinny Testaverde games. Remember back when Miami gained all those yards but had the turnovers? Well, that game Miami wasn't able to run the ball. I think the big difference in this team is when you have a guy like Fred Taylor who can run the ball, that makes it a little difference.
Jerry Sandusky said to us, if Steve Spurrier has the patience, he could probably run it on us all day long. But he said, you know, I don't think he's got the patience. He's going to want to put it in the air, and he's done both with relative ease so far. It's the 9th play of the Florida drive. It's Taylor, and he only got about a yard. Nice job that time by Penn State. Amani Bell and Chris Snyder.
I think Brandon Short also made a pretty good play on that one, coming in, reading that draw play as quick as any one of those linebackers. Brandon Short, guy who's going to call the signals for that Penn State, a middle linebacker a year ago, was a defensive tackle, defensive lineman on this football team. Moved to inside linebacker, and as a sophomore has really played well this year.
Down to the final 40 seconds of the first quarter, and a 3rd down and 9 for Florida. Johnson loads and goes incomplete, and Green took a big shot from Macklin after he got his hands on that ball, and Kwesi will remember that one. Good hit by David Macklin.
So far, Doug Johnson has thrown 6 passes to Green, and he's only completed 1 of them. That's pretty good defense.
Was a touchdown.
Bad news is that was for 6 points. Again, a very simple play, just a curl route in the seam. One of the first things you put in an offense. Aaron Collins made a perfect drop, and Doug Johnson had to throw the ball a bit high.
And Florida will go on 4th down. Brindise in at quarterback. 4th down and 9.
Very interesting. They don't even have Green on the field. 5 receivers. They don't have their All-American. Is that amazing on 4th down?
They're going to blitz Brindise. It's picked up, and he throws, and it's intercepted. Picked up by Nelson, the linebacker. And Jim Nelson, the senior, out across the 21-yard line for Penn State. So they come up with a turnover, and maybe Florida got a little too fancy for its own britches on that one, and Jerry Sandusky's got to be happy.
Brindise did not throw that ball very well that time. Tried to stick it in on a 4-man seam. He was late with the ball. If Skinner could have, was who he was going to throw to, if he didn't intercept it, I think Prater would have intercepted it by Nelson. So a late throw, probably not a very good call in that position by Steve. I hope he doesn't hear that, but I don't think it was a very good call when you have your 2 best players in pass offense not on the field.
They gave up the field goal attempt as well. They thought they were in Neverland a little bit with where the line of scrimmage was. And so Penn State takes over, courtesy of Jim Nelson, the linebacker. Everly trying to spin away and can't. And right now the Penn State running game is non-existent. And of course, as Gary talked about, when you don't have Curtis Enos in there, that's a big void in Joe Paterno's backfield. We've already seen, in fact, Kenny Watson, number 22, at times in the backfield, and that's something that they had not tried. They're trying to get a little extra speed in that backfield. The quarter comes to a close. Steve Spurrier, his team, maybe only 1 mistake, I guess, that interception moments ago. Otherwise, near flawless through 15 minutes, and they lead 14-0.
Welcome back. I think Penn State doesn't believe that they're getting the respect that they deserve. And yesterday I was at a pep rally, and it was wonderful. Joe Paterno was feisty. He was all wound up, and he was talking about why they aren't getting the respect from Steve Spurrier. Here it is.
Like the play in the swamp. Well, the swamp never had so much blue and white as we're going to have tomorrow. And so many guys yelling and shouting and screaming because we are Penn State.
Hey, and Brad, I was standing next to a veteran fan, we'll call him, and he literally had tears streaming down his face. I mean, it was pretty emotional for these guys.
I tell you, walking around watching the Penn State fans, and here's what you always hear. It's Joe.
It's Joe. There he goes.
And they got their cameras out. It's Joe. It's Joe.
Brad, Dean, one more touchdown by Florida, though. Those tears might start up again.
So 14-0 Florida leading as we are set to start the second quarter. Joe Paterno, 48 years he's been at Penn State, either as an assistant or a head coach, and now completing his 32nd year as the head man. And I believe right now the holdup to start is they're trying to get a car out of the. That young lady just won that car.
She could care less what the score is right now.
She could care less when we start the second quarter either. She just won that car, so that's what they're waiting for. They got to get that car out of the end zone, then we'll be set to go. I bet she doesn't watch the rest of the game.
Heck, why not? Be tooling around,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. Well, that's good. Joe Paterno closing on 300 coaching victories, and Steve Spurrier in his 100th game coaching the Florida Gators. It's amazing some of the parallels between these two when you talk about their records. Both guys won their 100th game of their coaching career in the 9th game of their 11th season.
Wow.
I mean, you know, just so many parallels. And you take a look at what they've done, the tail of the tape, if you will, and look at the similarities in both percentage and victories for those guys over their respective coaching careers. McQuarrie to throw, throws complete. Nope, in and out of the hands. I beg your pardon. Kenny Watson had his hands on it and couldn't hold it when he hit the turf.
Brad, Fran Granner talked to us about this dink and dunk offense, you know, and to the average fan that sounds very simple. Let's just throw the ball short. You know, the less yardage you throw it, the easier it is to throw. Well, that's not really true. I believe when you throw the ball short, you have to be more precise in your passing. The receivers do not have time to adjust to the throws. The defensive lineman's hands get in the way. And if you're trying to do this from the first day, it's hard to be like a Joe Montana, who was the best at doing that.
See if Florida can go up with another 3 and out for their opponents. That's a phenomenal statistic. McQuarrie throws on the run. They will not get the first down, I don't think. That's going to be close. That was a pretty nice toss. Joe Nastasi held it, and it's going to bring up 4th down and about a yard, though.
Joe Nastasi came up with the catch that time. This was kind of a rollout on the play, give McQuarrie time to throw the ball. Nastasi, the outside guy, is going to go down the field and just hook up. Now, the precision isn't there. He catches the ball. Watch Mike Harris, number 13, come up with the tackle. He made it, no first down.
And the punt will be taken on one hop by Penn State, as it was going to take a Florida bounce. And the Gators are going to have good field position again. 14-16 remaining in the first half, and Florida leading 14-0. But at least Penn State has stopped them the last couple of times they had the ball, including that interception by Nelson on the last trip.
Brad, you were talking about Florida and Bobby Stoops' defense getting 3 and out. The Florida defense has only been averaging this year 68 plays a game. The Penn State defense has been averaging 76 plays a game. No matter how good you are, that starts to wear you down.
Absolutely. On first down from the 37. Here's a counter to Carroll. And he goes out near the 45-yard line. Bo Carroll's got a ton of speed in that backfield for Florida.
Now, Steve has that list in front of him to help him remind him of plays.
Well, he didn't have a list when he was a quarterback for the Florida Gators, but what a brilliant senior season, as back on January 1st in '67. 31 years ago in the Orange Bowl, beat Georgia Tech 27-12. That was about 3 weeks after he won the Heisman Trophy. And here goes Carroll again. First down, crosses midfield to the 49. Brandon Short made the tackle, so the rotating tailbacks now, too, on top of the quarterback.
Brad, you had a great line. You were speaking at the luncheon when you talked about Steve and Joe. Neither one of them seemed to age. And when you watch those two guys in the film right there of Steve, and you watch Joe film highlights of him coaching 20 years ago, they do kind of look a lot alike, don't they?
I told them they could take Dick Clark's spot on that Rocket New Year's Eve thing.
He still got it, though.
That's right. First down at the 49. Here's a counter, and this time Penn State closes the door in a hurry. Matt Fornattle is the first guy there. Matt's been around a long time, only a 245-pounder, but he knows where to look, and the senior made the tackle.
Well, there's the difference right there. Matt Fornattle finally beat a guy up front and made a play in the backfield for this Penn State defense. And, you know, if they can hold on and score next, I think it's imperative for this Penn State team to score next, even if it's just a field goal.
Florida with the 3 wideout group. Doug Johnson, the man in there right now at quarterback on second down and 14. Play action. Down the middle, and he overthrew, and it's intercepted by Sean Lee. Sean Lee going the other way for Penn State. And he's all the way down to the 30-yard line. That one had too much on it. Overthrew his receiver. Sean Lee took it the other way, his 3rd interception of the year.
Brad, he overthrew, you're correct, but there was a reason for it. Coming from the right side of your screen, Darrell Jackson, number 9, one of the 2 true freshmen, stumbles on the play. That's the reason why the ball was overthrown. Jackson's going to come out. Watch him. Blows a tire on the play. The ball just sails right by him. The interception was caused by one of the young freshmen One of the two they did not redshirt this year, just stumbling. The ball was already on the air. That's the precision. When you're throwing the ball as well as they do, you better all do the right thing or bad things happen.
So Nelson with an interception. Now Lee with an interception and a 33-yard return. And it's first down, Penn State. They'll blitz McQuarrie. He throws complete. And down to a first down at the 20-yard line is Cuncho Brown, the tight end. And so Penn State down in the red zone now for Joe Paterno's club, trailing by 2 scores.
Well, Steve Spurrier has said, at least publicly, he got too cute in the LSU and the Florida game, in the Georgia game, and when he didn't run the ball enough. You wonder, going with Bo Carroll and not going back to Fred Taylor, put this game away. 2 interceptions have kind of given Penn State some life in this football game, because they were reeling in the first quarter.
Yes, they were. The football just shaded inside the Florida 20. Eberle spins, cuts outside. Now he's got himself some room. Inside the 10, he's got it. First and goal, Penn State. Chris Eberle takes it for 13 yards for the Nittany Lions.
Well, he's one of those no-name guys. There's nothing on the back of his jersey, but this time he makes a Kurt Enos type run. This time he runs right through Mike Peterson's tackle, spins out, and makes one of those plays that someone has to step up and make for this Penn State team. Chris Eberle, you know, he kind of got lost in Kurt Enos' shadow, but Brad, we saw him in 1996 when against Indiana he ran for 110 yards on just 15 carries. You don't get to Penn State and be a running back without any talent.
Penn State, there's what they've done in the red zone from just outside the 7. Eberle's hit in the backfield. He's going to lose almost 4 yards. Teddy Sims and Willie Rogers in there to make the hit, and now Chris getting up slowly, if at all. And he will not get up.
Boy, that's a problem. If they lose him, they need everybody they can get. You see the attack defense this time. Right up the gut. The play was made by Teddy Sims, one of those freshman linebacker. And poor Chris Eberle, I'm afraid. You know what I'm afraid? I'm afraid I'm just going to be quiet is what I'm afraid, because I'm not good at this stuff, because it looks very bad right now.
11:43, clock stop remaining second quarter. Coming up and standing on his own. That's a good sign. And the Florida players come over and give him a little pat. He's going to head to the sideline. Here's another look. Watch his lower right leg at the end of that play.
One of his own guys fell on him that time.
Scioli, the tight end.
Yeah, it was.
One of those friendly fire things that happen so often down in the pit.
You know, that was really good sportsmanship by the Florida guys right there. And they talked all week that they wanted to face Penn State's best. They were a little bit down that Curtis Enos wasn't playing and Jurevicius wasn't playing, and they want Eberle to finish this game.
Second down and goal, backed up to the 11-yard line. 2 tight ends set for McQuarrie, the lone wide receivers. Pettigrew to the top of your screen. They're going to throw the fade out there, and it's incomplete. Tika says he was interfered with by Weary, but no flag.
Well, Fred Weary faces those fades every day in practice, and the All-American that time beat Pettigrew to the spots. That was perfect coverage on that play. And Brad, you know, this crowd may seem to be a Florida crowd. Well, you know, they're only 100 miles from home here.
That's right.
That is one of the great advantages that the Southeastern Conference has in this bowl game down here in the Citrus Bowl. Very tough for the Big Ten teams to come down here and play in their home turf.
Third down and long again. Third and goal this time from the 11-yard line. McQuarrie. Look out. Mike's all the way back at the 25. Oh, they track him down, and Reggie McGrew will pick up the sack.
Well, I'll tell you, that will infuriate Fran Ganner and Joe Paterno taking a sack in that situation. I'll bet Joe is going to be all over McQuarrie. Coming out here, a very safe play. They're just going to try to get 5 yards. But McQuarrie runs and runs, gets sacked from behind, that time by McGrew, who beat Kevin Conlin. But just to throw it away gives them a sure 3 points.
So to go from first and goal of the 7 to try a long field goal is not exactly what Joe had planned. I don't think Travis Forney will try one from 42 yards out to put Penn State on the board, and he got it.
Oh, Travis just bailed out McQuarrie.
Yes, he did. Nice kick. And the Nittany Lions are on the board, not the way they had hoped, but trailing 14-3. The sports presentation of the 1998 CompUSA Florida Citrus Bowl, brought to you by CompUSA. With access to over 50,000 computer products, CompUSA is the computer superstore. Nicoderm CQ, the power to calm, the power to comfort, the power to help you quit. By Visa, it's everywhere you want to be. And by Buick. ABC Sports happy to be in Orlando to bring you the game. 14-3. Florida leading Penn State. Lazy kick will bounce inside the 10. It's going to make the end zone, and Carroll will knee it down there, and Florida will work from the 20. So 2 interceptions on the last 2 possessions by Florida. One off the arm of Brindise. That one went to Jim Nelson. The other, the thrown ball by Johnson when the receiver slipped and Sean Lee picked that off. And let's see if Florida goes back to something a little bit more basic now against Penn State. They were doing a job on the ground with Taylor, that's for sure.
Florida has their whole second offensive line in the game.
Here's Taylor. Brad cuts to the left side and got about 6 before Jason Collins ran him down from the secondary. Don't forget, following our game should be pretty interesting. Unbeaten and top-ranked Michigan. And the Wolverines set to do battle in the granddaddy of them all. They'll take on Ryan Leaf and the Cougars of Washington State. It's the Rose Bowl. Number 1 Michigan, number 7 Washington State following our game. Fred Taylor runs wide and gets a first down, and Fred is on his way to the century mark here, and we still have almost 10 minutes left in the second quarter.
He is. You know, when you think about the running backs that Florida has had in the past, and this guy carries the ball a lot for this team, and you know, he kind of reminds you of an Eric Rhett type guy, you know, who was from Florida, is now kind of feeling his way over there with Tampa. But this guy is going to be a better pro than he was a college player, and he's a pretty good college player.
92 yards, as you saw, for Taylor so far. And a 1st and 10. They split the backs now. Eugene McCaslin, the fullback. Quick drop. Brindise throws outside and incomplete, intended for Travis McGriff. Nice coverage by Macklin on the corner out there.
One of the things that Steve Spurrier does is he uses his backs. Now, look at those guys. There's how it is, Florida career rushing. Those are some pretty good names. What else stands out there, Brad? I'll give you your daily quiz here, your weekly quiz.
I'd say they sort of run alike.
They all do. All 4 of those guys, you are correct again. All 4 of those guys have about the same body type and run about the same way. Emmett Smith had a better line than all of them.
Yes, he did. You know, it's amazing. Steve kind of winked at us and said, do you know who the all-time career rusher is in number of attempts in SEC history? We looked at each other and he said Eric Rhett. And I did find that to be pretty amazing considering some of the great backs the SEC has had. And I think he takes pride in that fact because of what you said when we opened things up. They're known as the fun and gun and all the throwing the ball around. They always have a 1,000-yard rusher too.
They do. They spread you out. Obviously, it's a little different running game maybe than the Herschel Walker or the I formation plays that we used to see in the SEC. But, you know, Florida has changed the Southeastern Conference. Everyone has had to go to this type of attack to stay up with Florida.
You can see they are doing it on the ground today. 3rd down and 6 here, and 4 wideouts from the shotgun. Brindise throws short to Taylor. Let's see if they can outrun the defense. Not this time. Nice job by Jason Collins and David Macklin to stretch it out and use the sideline and knock him out of bounds.
You can see the style of defense that Penn State is running. All 8 people that were back dropping this time. Let's see if they rush 3 or 4. I think Aaron Collins does right. Actually, they rushed 4 people, not the 4 they lined up down with their hand on the ground.
All 3 linebackers.
All 3 linebackers came and only 1 defensive line. So that's that fire zone blitz that came in. But the remaining 7 players all had their eye on the quarterback, so that screen was not there.
Kenny Watson is waiting on Robbie Stevenson's punt. Penn State sort of a prevent look here. They don't bring a rush, and they don't have a lot of guys back. Maybe they know something about Stevenson's kicking today. That's a second bad punt. And it's taken on 1 hop at the 35-yard line. He had a 22-yarder earlier, a 26-yarder there. And 14-3 is what we have right now. Florida leading Penn State on New Year's Day. these two head coaches are not into it. We have not seen the visor being thrown to the turf yet. The headset almost made it on the Florida sideline. But just because Joe's a grandpa and he's 71, don't think he doesn't get involved.
Yeah, that one happened to be an official right there
Yes,
who got in the way. But anybody that gets in the way when things are, including us occasionally.
That's right. First down for Penn State from its own 35-yard line. Pettigrew, the motion man. McQuarrie wanted a handoff to somebody. Broken play. A loss of a couple. And Joe Paterno again will not be happy as we send it to John Saunders in New York. John?
All right, along with Todd Blackledge for the Rogaine Bowl report. Don't forget the big one today coming up, the Rose Bowl, Michigan against Washington State.
Yeah, Washington State, a offense is not seen by Michigan. Most similar to Purdue's offense, will be a real challenge for the Michigan defense because they did not play Purdue this year.
It's coming up in the Rose Bowl, Washington State and Michigan at 4:30.
All right, guys, here it's 14-3. Florida leading Penn State. But the Nittany Lions with the ball back in a little over 7 minutes remaining in the quarter. Play action, McQuarrie getting rushed again, and down he goes again. Second sack. This one's Willie Cohen's. The ball came loose at the end of the play, and a penalty marker down as well.
And
might be holding on top of that sack.
When you hold and still get a sack, that's bad news. Willie Cohen's just made two great plays in a row. He blew up the play before on the ISO.
On the offense, decline, and third down.
Brad, now it is 3rd and long for Penn State. Now, they should be starting to get used to it because their shortest 3rd down play in this game has been 3rd and 7. And now this is 3rd and 7. They've used up all their 3rd down and long plays. They're already on page 2. They're starting to repeat them again.
That's right. They're starting at the top of the script on 3rd and long. This one is 3rd and a mile as the penalties decline. The first penalty of the game, and it's declined. 3rd down and 18. That's what Penn State's done on their 3rd down conversions. Draw play inside, a safe play, and a pretty big gainer as well. As back across the original line of scrimmage goes Kenny Watson. Tony George tracked him down there, and it's going to be 4th down and about 9, and Penn State will have to punt.
Pretty safe play and a pretty good defensive play when you consider, and I may be wrong, I thought Florida only had 10 guys in the field that time.
Pat Pigeon will kick. Jaquez Green back. And Pigeon nailed this one. But Green's got his hands on it at the 15, and that's scary. Got a good block, but he slipped down on his own. 47-yard kick, only a 2-yard return. Jaquez got a beautiful block back there, but then the turf is what got him right on the Comp USA orange sign down there at about the 17-yard line.
Penn State is staying in this football game, though, and it's starting to be a little reminiscent of the game they played against Tennessee down here when they trailed 10-0. Tennessee had almost 500 yards in total offense, but Penn State stayed around and ended up winning the game. Very similar to that Miami game when they beat them in the Fiesta Bowl game when Miami had all those yards but had the turnovers.
On first down, Johnson off play action, throws out, incomplete, in and out of the hands of Taurus Ross, the tight end. Well, you've heard us talk about Jason Collins, the hero man, and Aaron Collins, a linebacker, put some pressure on in that instance, and Dean's with a pretty important part of that family right now.
Well, that's right. I'd say it's pretty important. This is really the hero of the Collins family, Francis Collins, and this is the end of an era. For the past 12 years, you've had 5 sons play for Joe Paterno. What's it going to be like when you don't have this happening?
Well, I guess next year I'll be staying home and catching up on some of the things that need to be done around the house.
All right, let's go back.
And it will be 2nd down. Doug Johnson's missed his last 6 passes. Here's Taylor on a counter, and Fred Taylor goes out, dives across the 25. Going to be about 3rd and 2. Let's go back to Dean and Francis.
I want to know about this necklace. You've got 1 necklace on here, number 8. Where were the other 4?
Well, Jason's the only one that gave me his necklace, so I wear whatever they give me.
You're one of the few people that grabs a microphone. I guess if you have 19 kids, you learn to be a little assertive, huh?
That's right.
There you go. I'll give you this thing.
Oh, boy. Charles and Francis, 19 children, and 5 of them played football at Penn State. And you know that Joe Paterno thinks that Miss Collins should be up for sainthood probably for helping him out so much. And that list included Andre, who started things off in '86, Jerry and Phil And, of course, the two guys we're talking about today, and Jason and Aaron, the Collins family, 19 strong. That's something else, isn't it? And, of course, you can't leave the sisters out. There's a lot of them, too. 12 sisters, 6 brothers. So they got the Collins clan here. They got a whole section at the Citrus Bowl.
And tickets have been tough to come by around
You got
here.
that right.
Yep.
And they're going to bring out the chains for the first time today. Got it by the length of the football.
See, I noticed neither one of us was predicting on that one. This is a new stadium for us.
Yeah,
we got to get used to it for a while.
Actually, it's this overhang over the press box here. It kind of takes the sunshine away from us. And there you look down from the Bud 1 blimp.
Well, Florida came out that first drive and ran the ball, and then they had that home run pass, which really could have gone either way. Since then, the Penn State defense has been pretty solid.
3 wide-out grouping for Doug Johnson. By the way, that first down carry by Taylor put him over 100 yards on the day. Blitz coming and a hit on Johnson. Perfectly timed. The ball still loose. Penn State trying to find the handle. Who got it? Way back at the 7-yard line. The Lions say they have it, and they do. Penn State recovers. That's as finely a timed blitz as I've ever seen. Brandon Short with a fumble recovery. It's 1st and goal, Penn State.
Brandon Short should get the fumble recovery because he's the guy who timed it. He beat the running back there that time to cause the fumble, and then everyone tries to scoop it up, and who ends up getting it? Brandon Short. You can see Short hits that A gap. It's a gap that Florida has trouble stopping a lot in their offense, and this time when you get back up, good things happen, and Brandon Short ended up with the football.
Turnovers for Florida. A couple of interceptions, and now the fumble has opened the door for the Nittany Lions. McQuarrie rolls, wants to throw back to the near corner to Scioli, and he overshot the tight end.
Javon Kerr stayed at home. Stayed at home, read his keys. Besides being an outstanding athlete, he did what the coach told him to do, because that was one of those plays where you really try to fool the defense. It was a gimmick play. Here's Kerr to the right. Quarterback rolls one way and throws back to a tight end who kind of falls down, gets back up, and tries to get you. There was nothing there.
2nd down and goal. Joe Paterno trying to make it a 4-point game. Mitchell, the tailback. Concho Brown, the tight end, in motion as McQuarrie drops to throw over the middle. Tipped. Almost intercepted. They're going to say it was not, although Florida does have their hands on it in the end zone in the person of Johnny Rutledge, but it'll be 3rd and goal.
Brett Scioli was so open on this play that McQuarrie lobbed the ball to him, and that was a big mistake because Javon Kerr comes back in, reads his eyes, and makes the play. If he'd have gunned that in there, he'd had an easy 6 points. Scioli is wide open on the play. He was open for 3 seconds on the play. McQuarrie thought he had him and took his time.
2 tight ends set again. Tikas Pettigrew, the lone wide receivers, in motion. 3rd down and goal, Penn State. Play action, McQuarrie throws. This time he does rifle it. Concho Brown made the catch, but he's about a yard short of the end zone.
I'll tell you, he's less than a yard short, Brad. He is right there, but I think it is very, very close. One of those situations where you almost have to go for it. Let's see if Everly was also open on that play in the flat. Yes, he was on that play, but nice catch by Concho Brown.
And Penn State will go for it. It is 4th down and goal, and now they want to talk about it. Maybe had the wrong personnel for the play, and McQuarrie will head to the sideline to talk to Frank Ganner and head coach Joe Paterno. 4 minutes, 10 seconds remaining, first half. Penn State trying to capitalize on the turnover and put it in the end zone.
There's no neutral site, guys. It's extremely loud down here. And sometimes these Big Ten teams that travel, say, to the Rose Bowl or down here are at a distinct disadvantage.
I'm telling you, there's a lot of blue and orange in that end zone that Penn State is trying to penetrate. 4th and goal at the 1. Cleary, the fullback's a 250-pounder. Everly, the tailback. And now Penn State takes a timeout.
Was it? I thought it was Florida.
Florida, beg your pardon. Florida takes a timeout as they saw what personnel Penn State was coming out in. This is like a basketball game. These two coaches calling timeouts here with 4:10 left in the second quarter.
Right, you know, early in the year, in fact, it was Florida's first game when they were still getting over Danny Warfel and trying new quarterbacks. Southern Miss gave Florida all they could handle. Southern Mississippi, they were in the red zone 5 times in that game and only came out with points once as Florida beat them 21-6. Southern Mississippi ended up with a pretty good year, winning a bowl game yesterday over Pittsburgh. No more Pitt. I almost said that.
That's right. You'd have been in trouble. Be outraged if they don't get this next yard that they are still working on toward the Florida end zone. As I mentioned, Cleary, the fullback's a big fella. Chris Everly, after being shaken up earlier, is back in there. Scioli, the tight end, on a wing left. And Florida jumps offside, and that's going to move it about a half yard closer. Willie Cohen's jumped in the neutral zone. Bobby Stoops says, oh boy, give him another free foot.
Dead ball. Offside on the defense.
Interestingly, between that timeout, Penn State came out in the exact same formation that they did the play before the timeout. So I don't think Penn State changed a thing. And looking at this formation again, they're not changing anything again. They usually run to the right in this situation.
4th and goal. Scioli in motion. McQueary to Everly, hit in the backfield, and I don't think he got there. He didn't. They swarmed to the ball.
That play took so long to get there. You could see the tilted backfield from Penn State. I am sure, and I am certain that Bobby Stoops knew that that play was going to go the opposite way towards the fullback. Everly tries to get upfield, but Mike Peterson is the guy who played off the block, forced the hole. By the way, Brad, Mike Peterson's the backup for this football team. Play was a slow developing play that time. Josh Mitchell, a true freshman, was the guy who was in there on that play to block. Nothing happened, and the Gators hold on.
Brindise in a quarterback. Taylor hit in the end zone and breaks free. And Taylor out near the 10-yard line, holding on for dear life. Shino Prater, he might have been off to the races. Those slow developing plays when you're down on the 1-foot line, sometimes I just can't. By the time you hand it off, the guy's 5 yards away from the goal line.
Especially when you're playing against a team that has such athletic skill in the front 7 for Florida. And maybe that's a play that works up in the Big Ten. But against these guys, that's a long time to ask your line to hold that defensive front 7.
Fred Taylor over the 100-yard mark in the first half. Here's a toss to it. And Taylor again. Positive yardage out to the 19-yard line. And now Florida has maybe gone from, hey, we're huddling in our own end zone, to why don't we go get some more points?
Well, Fred Taylor was the leading rusher for the Florida Gators 3 years ago. As a freshman in 1994, he gained 873 yards. In the last 2 years combined, he gained 956 yards. You can see he's back in gear this year, his senior year, as he went over 1,000.
First down now from the 19-yard line. They toss it to him. He fakes again on the flea flicker, which they have done 3 times now. Once they did run it and picked up the first down throw down the middle. Jim Nelson made the tackle that time.
Jim Nelson is one of the 3 linebackers that have so much experience for Penn State defense. Nelson and Collins have both started 36 consecutive games, and then Brandon Short has been a starter in defensive line and now middle linebacker. They're solid. I just don't think up front they're a typical Penn State unit.
Second down at 10. Final 2:25 of the first half. Doug Johnson changes things up, it appears, at the line. Penn State shows blitz, and they will come with it. Hand off. Taylor straight up the middle. Fred Taylor across the 30 and out to the 38-yard line.
Got a flag on the play, though, this time. This one may come back.
Well, the visor's off. I think it is on the ground now. I don't see it in his hand. No, it is in his hand. There it goes.
See, that's the triple whammy. Flag on the ground, Steve shaking his head, and then when he tosses it, you know that's for sure going the other way.
Somebody handed it back to him, but that's the first time that visor has been tossed to the field today.
A 10-yard penalty on the spot of the foul. Repeat, second down.
He's going visorless right now.
He's going visorless. You can see Steve right here. Even before the snap, he's still talking. He's still telling Doug Johnson what to call. See, he's basically playing. It's Nintendo football, really.
As somebody said this year during the course of the season, it's not Brandeis or Johnson or even Jesse Palmer playing quarterback. It's Steve Spurrier. He's just kind of living vicariously through those guys wearing those uniforms out there. Second down at 17 now. Bo Carroll is back in the quarterback field as Johnson drops the throw. Throws it out to him on a screen. And Collins let him know he was there. Aaron Collins this time with a hit. And it'll be third down and long. So Penn State, if they can hold here, should get pretty good field position with another chance before halftime.
This time a screen pass just to try to get it into position this time to make some play. Good pressure on the quarterback. Of course, you got to let those guys in a little bit, but the throw was a little bit at Carroll's knees that time, and a lack of precision on a simple play made that Penn State defense look pretty good.
Well, that time he didn't mean to drop the visor.
No.
He just missed it on the catch. Third down and 17. 3 wide outs. And they'll keep it on the ground to Carroll. He's dropped at the 10-yard line. And Aaron Collins makes back-to-back hits. One of the Collins family. The senior makes the stop and forces the punt.
My, what a different game we have here. Things started off so quickly. Penn State survived that. As you look at the Collins family cheering and feeling a little bit better than the first quarter, but they survived that early knockdown, I think.
Yep.
And then, you know, I just believe Florida got a little too cute here, figuring this game was well in hand, and now Penn State has gotten back in the game. They're starting to understand the tempo of Florida and feeling much better about themselves.
And timeout taken here with 1:32 remaining. Penn State down to their final timeout. 92 seconds left in the first half. Only 14-0 lead. Penn State has a field goal to show for its efforts. They were stopped down on the 1-foot line on the last possession, but now Robbie Stevenson, who has not exactly been lighting it up as the Florida punter, is deep in his own end zone, and Kenny Watson waits on it back near the 45-yard line. So the Nittany Lions should get good field position out of this upcoming kick. This time he got a good kick, though. Watson has to go way back to the 42-yard line. And now Watson brings it straight ahead. He keeps his footing inside the 40. He might take it. Kenny Watson all the way down to the 6-yard line. He almost went down of his own accord, found his footing, and Penn State's got it first and goal again.
The best punt of the day ends up being the worst punt of the day. Watson takes it, stumbles as he goes one way right there, and as he comes back, just keeps his feet. And had he known Javon Curse is behind him right here, he would have cut to his left and scored. But Curse saves the day. Penn State back down there inside the 10. And let's see if Penn State can execute a little bit better and put points on the board this time.
The longest punt return of the year for the Nittany Lions, and the longest one allowed by Florida. First and goal, Penn State. Everly, the tailback, gets a call, and he's hit immediately at the line of scrimmage again.
Man, oh man, what do you do if you're Fran Ganner? You call plays, you call slow developing plays, they don't work. You call throwbacks, they don't work. You call the tight end wide open in the end zone, you miss them. You run the quick isolation play up the middle and nobody gets blocked. You start to look at your playlist and you say, I don't have anything.
The one guy that's been pretty consistent is Cuncho Brown, the tight end today. It's second and goal. McQuarrie to the corner and too far in front of Shoppy Fields. It's third and goal.
See, Elijah Williams and Fred Weary are just better than the Penn State receivers. They're going to come out this time. They're going to try to throw the fake fade route, kind of like a throwback route to the outside, but the timing's not there. Brad, I think Penn State misses Jurevicius a lot more than Joe wanted to talk about, because he's the type of guy that could make a play in the end zone with an alley-oop type pass.
That's true. Tikas Pettigrew is the only wide receiver. He's wide to the right side. That is Cuncho Brown, the tight end, in motion on third and goal. McQuarrie looking left, pumps. Now trying to beat a defender to the goal line, and he won't get there.
Well, Thankfully for Penn State, he didn't get close enough. They're not going to go for this one. They're going to kick a field goal.
You see the clock winding down, and they're going to take a timeout with 29:28.
Well, I don't know why they take a timeout to kick a field goal.
So maybe they're going to talk about it and discuss whether or not they actually want to try this again. I don't know. The last drive for Penn State, when they were down close, they gave it to Eberle on that handoff to the right side that ended up being about a 5-yard attempted run, even though they were down close. Well, they're not, as Gary said, this close this time, but they got a pretty good spot. It's just shaded outside the 1-yard line.
Brett, you're right. They got a much better spot than I thought they did. But I still, if you can't make it from the 6-inch line, it's tough to go for it from the 1-yard line. Now, I'm sure Joe will think about it, but I don't know. I kicked the field goal.
A Budweiser blimp, and it's eye in the sky camera, proud to provide us with a great shots 1,000 feet above the Florida Citrus Bowl in Orlando. If they do indeed kick a field goal here, it's an 8-point game, and that's a 1-touchdown game if you have a 2-point conversion involved. If they go for it here and should be able to score, we got a 4-point game at halftime. At any rate, we're 26 seconds away from intermission. Dino's down on the field. It's been a noisy crowd for Florida's defense, and they've done a nice job so far.
Well, they have. No question, Joe Paterno calling all the shots. He called the timeout. He sent his quarterback back out to find out specifically how far they had to go. Then he made the decision here to go for it. So at some places, coordinators get greatly involved. Joe Paterno is calling the shot.
Yep. Well, if you're a coordinator for Joe Paterno or Steve Spurrier, it's sort of like being the warm-up comedian for Jerry Seinfeld, you know?
You're right.
At the 1-yard line. 4th and goal again for Penn State. Anthony Cleary, the fullback. Eberle, the tailback. Play action. McQueary to the end zone, and it is intercepted. Mike Harris picks it off in the end zone for Florida.
Mike McQueary has to start throwing the ball harder near the goal line. Again, he thought he had the tight end, Cuncho Brown, wide open. He lobs it to him. Cuncho Brown, watch him. He's open, he's open, he's open. Here comes the lob pass, and from the other side, Mike Harris just reads it and takes it away from him. 2 big mistakes by McQueary. Watch Cuncho Brown on the left side of your screen. The ball has to go to him now. Throw it hard. There's the lob. Look how much he leads him right into the next defender. That's a mistake by the quarterback.
And the big redhead knows it, or will hear about it when he gets to the sideline. And Florida's going to run out the clock and run to the far end to their locker room with the lead that they have had for much of this first half. It was all Gators early. Penn State came back with a field goal, but they missed down close twice. 14-3 at halftime. Florida leading 14-3. Florida came storming out of the blocks. A couple of quick touchdowns. Looks like they were going to make this a very one-sided affair. Penn State wasted opportunity half for them, especially in that second quarter.
Yeah, really 2 big opportunities at the end of that half. One kind of led to the other because of the punt turn, but you know, this might be, we talked about Juravistas, this might be the area where Kurt Enos could make a difference also. Florida makes the great stop on the running play after the timeout when it was 4th and inches, and now Cuncho Brown is wide open. McQueary lets his pass slowly slide to the right. 2 big no-point plays inside the 1-yard line. Nothing for Penn State when it could have been a much different half.
Take a look at the statistics at halftime, and they would bear out the fact that Florida would be leading this game. Look at that, -1 yard rushing for Penn State in that first half, and that's not going to cut it. Let's head down to Dean Blevins.
Guys been checking with the coaches on what changes might be coming. Penn State says it's simple. We need to score when we get down there. Florida says, you know, our game plan is really working. We just don't need to throw it to the other guys. So I think both teams are liking what they're doing. Penn State much more if they get it across the end zone.
Absolutely. And we will see if they can do that in the third quarter. And they're going to have first chance anyway, as Penn State will receive the second half kickoff. And there's the average starting position so far. It hasn't really made much difference for Penn State. They have sputtered offensively all day long. And you can see Steve Spurrier coached all the way through that half-an-hour extravaganza at halftime in the locker room. He's out here and he's still doing it with Doug Johnson.
And you can see where he wants the ball set, how he wants his shoulders to face. But he should also go over to the receiver and tell him not to slip on one of those interceptions,
That's
too.
Right.
Brad, Penn State in the last 6 bowl games that Joe Paterno has coached have outscored their opponent 131-40 in the second half. So there's still something for Penn State.
Kenny Watson, some indecision a couple yards deep, and now he brings it out and got to the 20-yard line. So he got about what he would have picked up had he taken a knee. And there's what Gary's talking about. Second halves have belonged to Penn State over the course of their bowl years. And that guy who's won 18 bowl games knows how to make some adjustments at halftime. Many times adjustments made at intermission are kind of overblown on what you can accomplish, but they're going to have to make some here in the second half to come from behind.
I know Dean was correct in how he reported it from the Penn State coaches, but I can't believe they're happy with only 1 yard rushing at halftime.
See if they can pick up the slack a little bit here. Play action. McQuarrie wants to throw on the first play of the third quarter, and well, he almost got Joe Paterno over there with a pass, but he didn't get his intended receiver. Joe was closer than the receiver was.
He was. Well, you know, part of that minus 1 yard rushing means there's sacks involved. But I think, Brett, this might be the first time that Penn State had some good protection to throw the ball, and no one was open that time.
So second down and 10.
One of the reasons he had such good protection on that situation was a first down pass. I think it was unexpected.
Yeah. 2 tight end sets. Scioli, the motion man of the 2. They'll hand it off, and Mitchell got about 5. That's more rushing than they had in the whole first half. Dwayne Thomas made the tackle.
This is a great Florida defense, there's no doubt. And we've talked about Kurnitas, and we've talked about Juravicius from this Penn State offense not being here today. But a guy they lost in the Minnesota game maybe changed this team just as much as those 2 guys. Aaron Harris, their outstanding fullback, who is not just a blocking back, but a guy who could run the ball from the fullback position, might has as much to do with this Penn State offense the last 4 weeks as anybody not being here.
Penn State's been horrible on third down today. They missed their last 8, and they are 1 for 9 overall on those conversions. McQuarrie fires, and it's caught. Nastasi with the catch and the first down out across the 40 to the 41-yard line. So a guy that, Gary, you talked about before the game with me, you thought was going to have to come to life a little bit, does with that reception.
I talked to Joe before the game. I asked him how good he felt. He said, this is the best I felt all year. You could see the coverage right there. Elijah Williams was all over Nastasi. Had that ball been thrown really perfectly, I think Williams would have been able to make the play. Nastasi is one of the guys that has to come through for Penn State today. One of those other no-names.
He had 2 big games to open the year against Pitt and Temple, and then some strained knee ligaments slowed him down for a good portion of the season. This pass intended for Shafi Fields is incomplete. It'll be second down at 10.
It's amazing how a good pass rush and a good front 4 can distort a team's passing game. That time, again, Penn State kept in their tight end and both backs. They only sent 2 players out for a pass. It's very difficult. You know, a lot of flash and dash from this Florida defense, but most of the time, 90% of the time, Florida keeps a free safety in the middle of the field for this defense. They don't blitz as much as Ohio State does in the Big Ten.
2 interceptions and only 6 completions for Mike McQuarrie. Second down and 10. Straight drop, fakes to the right, wants to throw for Kenny Watson on a wide-out screen, and it works. And Watson's got a first down to the 48-yard line of Florida. That's probably the best-looking pass play of the day for Penn State.
No doubt about it. It was the best executed pass play that they had. It's one of those jailbreak screens. Watson is going to come out in motion to the left side of the screen here and then come back. This is very similar to the play that they scored against Michigan State 2 years ago on a third down call with only 8 seconds left in the game. A big gamble play that they got away with. And this time, Penn State comes back, dials it again, and it works.
You quarterbacks remember every play from the last 100 years.
We did that game.
Oh, okay. At the 47, McQuarrie rolls and throws and overshot Tikas Pettigrew, who tried to make a diving catch near the sideline.
You know, Fred Weary is a first-team All-American defensive back who was in coverage on that time on Pettigrew. That's quite a mouthful right there when you consider Charles Woodson's in the mix, Drew Bly is in the mix, McCutcheon from USC is there, Antoine Whitfield from Ohio State, Dre Bly, and you can see Fred Weary kind of looks like he's always going half speed out there. He is really a technician.
Well, when you think that they had the Thorpe winner last year, Lawrence Wright, in the Florida secondary, and they had to retool back there, and now they've got two guys each with 6 interceptions. And as Gary said, Weary an All-American. They're tough to throw on. Here's a screen to Everly. Everly broke a tackle, puts his head down, and even though he was banged up with that lower right leg, injured in the first half, he barrels forward for 8 yards. It'll bring up 3rd down and 2.
Well, you can see the difference. Penn State has definitely decided that if they're going to be able to move the ball against this Florida defense, the running game just isn't going to be something they can depend on. Fran Ganner is giving them the whole screen package right here in this drive.
Yep. He's got everything but a screen door just on this drive so far, and now it's 3rd down and a couple.
Well, they haven't run any of these plays. These 3rd and shorts are all there.
That's right. Everly and Anthony Cleary is the fullback. 2 tight ends set. Scioli now comes off the wing and goes in motion. Everly behind Cleary, and he got a 1st down. Johnny Rutledge made the tackle, but Everly picks up the 1st down for Penn State, and already they have 3 in this half, and it was a rarity as you see the entire first half. That's all they had.
Penn State that time went unbalanced line. Scioli lines up here, went all the way over to there. Florida did not adjust, did not move one guy. They came a mismatch on the play, and Everly picks up the mismatch and makes a 1st down.
Inside the Florida 35-yard line. 9th play of the drive. 1st and 10 for the Nittany Lions. And here's Everly straight up the middle this time. And Chris Everly now inside the 30 to the 29. Give him 6 more.
Willie Cones that time, the defensive end for Florida, was the guy that was supposed to be trapped. He was upfield so fast, there was nothing to trap that time. He was diving. Watch Cones come up here inside. This tackle's supposed to kick him out. Watch what happens. He's going to fly upfield. Whoa, he can't even reach him. That was speed 3.
Not only that, he hit McQueary diving forward, and McQueary came up limping after that play. You might have seen it right at the end of the replay. And McQueary hobbling around in between plays there. 2nd down and 4. Everly, this time the penetration gets to him. He's trying to bounce away, and he bounces all the way back to about the 36-yard line is where they're going to stop the negative progress, if you will, by Florida's defense. And great penetration again. Willie Coens, Johnny Rutledge, those guys just steamrolling in that side.
Well, there's a guy we haven't mentioned much. He's just a #1 tackler on the defense, Johnny Rutledge. He was a Butkus semifinalist. I mean, they have 3 linebackers. They're bookend with Curse and Rutledge, and Mike Peterson falls in there. Dwayne Thomas in the middle. All 4 of those guys are big timers.
6th time today. Penn State's had it 3rd and 10 or longer. McQueary steps up in the pocket, has some time, a lot of time. And now he's going to run with it, and will he get there? Not quite. Oh, what a pileup, including the chain gang on the far side of the field. Looks to be about a yard short, but we'll see where they unpile the bodies. And I think there might be an injured Florida player there on the bottom as well. Nope, everybody's up okay, I guess.
Boy, was that great protection from that Penn State offensive line that time. Florida bought 4 of them this time. Remember, this is a defense that has sacked the opponents 50 times this year. Penn State held up, but no one to throw to. McQueary had to run and made it. I thought it was 3rd and long. Shouldn't it be 4th and short? It is 4th and short. Yep. 4th and a yard. And the way they've been going,
go again.
They might as well, huh?
They're 0 for 2 so far.
Nastasi out in the pass route, and Weary is right there hoping the pass will come his way.
And Penn State's going to take a timeout. So again, they take a timeout with another 4th down and short yardage situation. We'll see what they do when we come back. CompUSA Florida Citrus Bowl brought to you by CompUSA. With access to over 50,000 computer products, CompUSA is the computer superstore. By Brewery Fresh Budweiser, who reminds you fresh beer tastes better. And by Chrysler, engineered to be great cars. Nittany Lion fans are hoping that the Penn State offense has something engineered to move that football 1 more yard to the left, as they're again going on 4th down and short. 10:09 left, 3rd quarter. Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson, and Dean Blevins with you from Orlando. Everly, the tailback, in the aisle, gets the call, got the 1st down, broke through the wave and inside the 20. Tico Brown brought him down, but he's got it to the 19-yard line.
Isolation play, a little different running a short yardage play than it is a goal line play, because there's no reason for the safeties to be any further back than 1 yard behind the line of scrimmage. You can see a little more space to run the ball. And the Penn State offensive line, again, doing a very credible job here in the second pass.
And Everly doing a nice job here in this third quarter. A renewed sense of urgency on the Penn State offense's part. And here's Everly again. He's bouncing over would-be tacklers. Down inside the 15-yard line. 5 yards, almost 6 for Chris that time.
Remember what Bobby Stoops tries to accomplish with this defense. One of the reasons he ever got this job from Steve Spurrier because he said one of his goals is get his team off the field as fast as he can. He likes to average less than 5 plays per series for a defensive unit. Stoops doesn't like these long drives, and more importantly, neither does Steve Spurrier.
So the extra tight ends come in for Penn State with a 2nd down and 5. Mitchell, the tailback now. Nastasi is in motion, the lone wide receiver. Mitchell hit the backfield, dropped, may have even lost a yard. Ed Chester, a guy that Gary was talking about earlier, who was all SEC last year and isn't even starting, made the tackle.
He has really been banged up this year. He's had knee injury, shoulder injury, hip injury, a kneecap injury. This is as healthy as he has been all year, and he was their defensive MVP a year ago on the defensive line. Did not participate in spring football, and when you don't do that, other guys can emerge.
Yep.
Mike Moten emerged.
And he became first-team all-conference. 15th play of the Penn State drive. But it's that 3rd and long again. 3rd and 7. McQuarrie slips it to Watson. And Watson's a couple yards short of the first down.
You know, when we spoke with the Penn State coaches yesterday, we asked them about this Florida defense and who can they say in the Big Ten are they like? And they go, not really anyone. They're not like Michigan, who does a lot of fire zone blitzes. They're not like Ohio State, who blitzes a lot and plays man-to-man. They just have an intimidating front 7 attack, but they play very simple defense in the secondary.
Travis Forney, who has the only Penn State points, is going to try to tack 3 more on. This will be a 30-yard field goal attempt. Nastasi got the hold down. The snap was a little wide, but the kick is up and good. And Penn State, had they done that a couple of times in the first half, look what the score would be. As it is, it's an 8-point game.
Sure are a lot of fans here today.
Yeah, it reminds me of how many computer products there are at CompUSA.
Oh, boy.
See, CompUSA gives you access to over 50,000 computer products.
Like this CompUSA PC with an Intel 233 megahertz Pentium 2 processor, just $12.99.
Plus complete technical services like upgrades, repairs, phone-in support, delivery, and installation.
Anything about this game that doesn't remind you of CompUSA?
I never need protective gear at CompUSA.
You don't need it here either.
You didn't get the snacks at halftime.
Oh, right.
In 1993, we changed everything. Dodge became the new Dodge, and the new Dodge became Intrepid. Now we're changing the way cars are created. Today's new Intrepid is the world's first car designed, assembled, and proven on computers, enabling a degree of precision never before possible. Welcome to the world of the new Dodge Intrepid. We're changing everything. Again.
Let's start with the brewmaster for just a moment. The brewmaster is the chef, and that is the key brewmaster role, to understand the blending of his or her ingredients. Not only he or she tastes the beer every day, there's another person who tastes the beer every day, and that is me. The ability to have hands-on.
To the national championship, they treat you pretty special when you show back up here.
I'll tell you what, it's great in Florida. The people, you know, they just love the Gators. They love anybody associated with the Gators, and it was such a great year last year. They love us all. It's good to be back.
Now, you picked a couple of vociferous type coaches. You've got Spurrier here, and you have Ditka down in New Orleans. What's the difference between the two?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm really fortunate to have the opportunity to play for 2 guys that have proven themselves as winners both on and off the field. And the intensity is definitely there. But big hearts, you know, guys that care a lot, and I just want you to do the best you can.
Thanks, Danny.
All right, thank you. God bless you.
Danny Werfel, who won the Heisman last year, and of course Peyton Manning, who was the runner-up to the Heisman this year, tells you that the SEC can throw the football around a little bit, and especially with that guy, the mad scientist at the control of the Florida sideline, Steve Spurrier. And Brindise will come out to open things up. That long drive by Penn State netted them 3 points. But when you consider that they have had 4 possessions inside the 20 and have 2 field goals, they lost it on downs and they lost it on a turnover. What could have been for Penn State is still looming over their shoulder. Fred Taylor, I got a feeling they just give it to Fred about 30 times and they have about 300 yards.
You're right, Brad. And Jerry Sandusky correctly surmised that Steve would not be patient enough to do that. And so far, he has not been. Brad, did you see that score? A&M beat UCLA at the half. There have not been a lot of surprises in bowl games this year, but if that holds up, that's a surprise.
Our buddy Dat Wynn had an interception that he lateraled to a teammate for a touchdown in that game, so he's maybe the best player A&M's got. 2nd down and 2. Again, it's Taylor. And Fred's got it across the 45 to the 46 before Shino Prater can bring him down. Pickup of 8 more and up to 143 for Fred Taylor today.
Brad, you talked about Penn State's problems, and we both talked about it really in November and what teams did to him. And Jerry Sandusky was very, said it's very, very simple. Tight ends have been able to handle us. Both Michigan and Michigan State both put a tight end over us on the outside, 2 tight ends, and look what Florida's gone to. 2 tight ends, run the ball right at them.
Here they come again. Left side, Taylor whips outside across midfield, and Fred does some fancy footwork to the 45-yard line, 9 more yards. So they're just tacking it on, and number 21 is carrying the mail.
Just like Michigan State did, just like Michigan did, Florida now has come with the 2 tight ends, and they're just manhandling the end man on the line of scrimmage. Watch this guy right here. 2 guys are going to come and handle him, push him back. They'll rub off for the linebacker that time, and there's nothing really to it. The play before, the play that Taylor gashed him for, watch the hole this time right up the gut of this Penn State thing. You tell me this isn't a lot of room right there to run the ball? You don't have to be an all-SEC back to run the ball there. That's a lot of space.
About the only thing that Florida has done wrong on this drive is they were just called for a personal foul on a late hit that has backed them up now to the 40-yard line. And Steve says, excuse me, side judge. An elbow to the face. Oh, boy. That was almost a visor flopper again. 2nd down and 16. Johnson goes out complete. Richardson makes the catch and got back near midfield at about the 49-yard line. Derek Fox made the tackle. We're down just over 6 minutes left, 3rd quarter. 14-6 Florida. So Johnson out. Brindise passes him. Going back in there. Doug started off hot, and you can see has cooled considerably. So now the senior and former walk-on out of Fort Myers, Florida is back in there. Noah Brindise. 3rd down and 7. 3 wideouts. Here comes a Penn State blitz. And it's Taylor on the ground. And Matt Fornadel stays home and makes the tackle.
I'll tell you, Florida fans, or people who watch a lot of Florida football and just figure that they're going to see run and gun, fun and gun, throw it all over the field, are going 3rd and 6 in isolation play from Florida. They probably didn't have many of these calls in the last few years.
Well, when they rush well, they don't lose. And they're on one of those kind of streaks right now because Taylor himself is over 150. Even though with lost yardage, their total yardage is 149. Fred's got 157 by himself. And here they go. 4th down and 2.
2 tight ends.
And now they drop back into a shotgun, and they were going to try to draw Penn State offside. It didn't work.
And that wouldn't have counted, I don't think, anyone had it even drawn off Penn State, because that was a play to deceive the defense.
4:53 left in the 3rd quarter. 14-6 Gators. Way of action on ABC Sports. Our New Year's bash continues. It'll be the Nokia Sugar Bowl tonight. Florida State and Ohio State, and of course the granddaddy of them all will follow us. It's the Rose Bowl. Number 1 Michigan trying to win a national championship against Ryan Leaf and company. Keith and Bob and Swanee are waiting on that one. Brent and Dan and the guys are in New Orleans, and we've got a punt coming up, we think, from Florida. Kenny Watson is back deep waiting on Robbie Stevenson. He will kick it, and this one's going to make the end zone on the fly or not? No, not back.
Now that'll be a touchback. Remember, the college rules are different than the pro rules. If the ball breaks the plane, it's a touchback.
One official hesitated, and the other one called exactly what Gary just said. And Robbie Stevenson says, hey, wait a minute.
No, Robbie.
Sorry, Robbie.
It's just like a touchdown. If the ball breaks the plane of the end zone, it's a touchback.
That official gave us a little hesitation. Right. The other one made the right call, and it'll come out to the 20-yard line when we come back. A seat in the house today is inside the Bud 1 airship, aerial ambassador of the King of Beers. We always argue that. We say it's the second best seat. We got a pretty good one. I'm on the 46-yard line. Right. There's Miss Florida Citrus Bowl.
Oh, very well timed having that orange juice right there.
That's right. Shannon was at the luncheon the other day, sitting up there with all the coaches. It was like Beauty and the Beast. Penn State offense has come to life a little bit in this third quarter. Let's see what they can do with this drive from the 20. Eberle, boy, he is one pinball runner, isn't he? And he goes out to the 28-yard line, bouncing off tacklers and picking up huge chunks of sod in his face mask.
We asked Joe, or maybe it was Fran Ganner, the offensive coordinator, about Eberle, and he said, you know, the kid's got a lot of moxie. Now, that sounds like Joe, so I'm going to go with Joe on this thing. He said the kid's got a lot of moxie. He's a gamer. So that's kind of what he showed in this game. He doesn't have the great breakaway speed, but, you know, a guy that can make people miss and pick up positive yards.
He did there. Got 9, second down on the yard. Two tight ends set again. Pettigrew is in motion. Eberle. And they seal off the blockers, and he goes for a first down across the 35 out to the 36-yard line. There was an injured Gator on that punt play. Dean's got more on that on the sideline.
Yeah, it's cursed. He has a cramp in his left calf muscle. They're rubbing it down. He should return a little later. You know, Gary, you and I were talking yesterday about the fact speed is such an essential ingredient with linebackers across the country. I want to see some company come up and sponsor a linebacker 4x100-yard relay. What do you think?
I'll take the teams from Florida.
No, that was my line. I got them. You get the rest of the country.
Yep. The Gator and Knoll fans know that pretty well, don't they? First down from the 36. McQuarrie play action going deep down the middle, and Tikas Pettigrew never even really looked up until it was too late.
Yeah, Javon Kurz right across the front. Mike Peterson, Dwayne Thomas, Johnny Rutledge, all 4 of those guys run so well up there that it's really not necessary to do a lot of blitzing, because you don't want to bury those guys in the backfield and let the quarterback have a break with open areas to throw. Bobby Stoops comes in here with a defense, obviously from Kansas State, where you'd use a lot of people, but you keep someone in the middle of the field.
Javon was the big play leader for Florida's defense. They take into account tackles for loss and sacks and interceptions, fumbles forced, fumbles recovered, all of that. He was the main guy. He's on the sideline now as McQuarrie throws, complete. Scioli, did he catch it or not? Nope, they're going to say incomplete, even though there's a mad scramble for the ball at the end of the play. And McQuarrie leveled after he let go of that football.
We talked about how tough it is to dink and dunk. It looks really simple from the stands or on TV. Scioli's going to come out here and go out about 5 yards. Cuncho Brown is going to go out to the outside. There's the seam right there. But look, the ball is just slightly thrown behind. The receiver doesn't have much time to turn around and make the adjustment. When the hit comes, the ball pops loose. That's why those guys that can throw short, guys like Joe Montana, make it look so easy, but it is so difficult.
Third down and long. McQuarrie sets up quickly and throws complete, but it is about a yard short of the first down. He had to go down to his knee to make the catch. That's the first one Pettigrew's caught today, and he caught it in front of the first down marker.
And Frank Ganner and Joe Paterno are all over Pettigrew. Look at you. Look at Joe. Go past the down marker. What are you thinking? Made a nice catch, but with a third down pass at 3rd and 10 to get 9 doesn't do much.
Jacquez Green with a fair catch on the punt back at the 24-yard line. So again, a wasted opportunity. Red-hot Joe Paterno. His team, though, still in the game. Calm down, Joe Paterno. You're wrong.
Right. See, the Kleenex is equal to the visor.
That's right. Don't forget the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl coming up tomorrow at 3 o'clock noontime on the West Coast. And Damian Craig and the Auburn Tigers against the Clemson Tigers. Going to be a cap fight in Atlanta. And Clemson's Nealon Green, an exciting player to watch too, and Raymond Priester and Tony Horn and those guys. It should be a good game on ESPN. Here we've got a 1-touchdown and 2-point conversion game going on. 14-6 Florida. Florida had that first 14 points in about 6 minutes and haven't scored since. And Taylor hit in the backfield, bounces off, got a 1.5 yards or 2. So Fred putting up the kind of numbers that could net him a 200-yard rushing day. He had the 4th best total single season total in Florida history this year. He came in almost 1,300 yards on the ground and adding to it impressively today.
Well, his career high was against South Carolina this year when he went for 170, and he had 162 and 4 touchdowns against Florida State.
Toss it to him, and he goes straight ahead and close to the first down mark. And again, that had that sort of look of the flea flicker play, although he didn't really fake it that time back to Brandeis.
A lot of spice, but very simple play. Brad, I don't think Steve Spurrier believes that Penn State can drive down the length of the field on this Florida defense. He is going to play it close to his sweater vest, at least for this 3rd quarter here, and get up maybe one more touchdown before we see the whole repertoire against Penn State.
3rd down and 1 yard. And Johnson, second effort, got him the first down. He was hit and would have actually lost yardage, but he used that 212 pounds to bounce outside and picked up the first down.
I think this rotating quarterback thing kind of caught Florida State off guard in that football game. One of the reasons he did it because he thought Florida State had his hand signals in the game. But I don't think, it might work a little bit, and there's a lot of pluses to it, but I don't think it works through a whole season. But I don't think you can find a rhythm as a quarterback in a game.
On first down, Fred Taylor. He's had a rhythm today. Didn't get much this time, though. Nice job defensively. Kirpakis and Sabaleski in on the hit. And Brandeis comes out. Johnson comes in.
Penn State has always been a bend but don't break defense. The reason it's more successful in this game than it has been against the Big Ten teams this year is because they've had the turnovers. Only 16 turnovers for this Penn State team, and Jerry Sandusky told us he can't ever remember having that few.
Here's an empty Gator backfield. Brandon Short and Jim Nelson thinking about blitzing for Penn State. Here they come. 5 wide receiver offense, and Johnson tucks it down. Oof, a big hit at the end of that play. That one hurts, and that almost looked like he got speared with the top of someone's helmet.
Chris Snyder came in short, came in late on that play to hit Johnson.
That could have been very close to being a flag thrown on the play. And
of course, everyone knows that Doug is well, this is the zone drop. You'll see the linebackers come, and you'll see either this guy or this guy drop. I'm not quite sure which one it is, but this is the zone blitz defense. You see it. It was Chris Snyder, number 91, drop, and he's the one, the defensive tackle, that comes. And actually, it was not. It was
a shoulder. Oh, yep.
Kirpakis is the guy that gets it. Excuse me. I had my eye on Chris Snyder, but it was Justin Kirpakis, the guy that puts his shoulder to Johnson's shoulder right at the end of that play. His helmet and shoulder right to his back. And, of course, we all know Doug is a baseball player, so he can't afford that kind of injury this late in the year.
Man. So much for the quarterback rotation unless Jesse Palmer becomes part of the rotation, because Doug Johnson doesn't look good right now. And that'll put it on Noah Brandeis.
Noah Brandeis, there's Jesse Palmer, a freshman who is actually, although he is a true freshman, came to school at Florida in January and went through a spring practice before he came this year. I'll tell you, he has a lot of talent also. He is not ready yet in this offense, but he has a lot of talent to throw the football game.
And the reason he's warming up to back up Brandeis is the end of this play by Doug Johnson. And again, you see as he's going down, Justin Kirpakis comes in, and whether it was a shoulder or a helmet, it hurt. And Doug is up now and walking off.
I think it was his right arm, shoulder, the way it's hanging right there. He has not moved his right arm much.
So Steve Spurrier will readjust his thinking on the quarterback situation. I'm sure once Doug Johnson gets to the sideline, he'll find out in a hurry whether or not he's capable of ever being back in this game today. At any rate, it's Brandeis now at the controls, and the toss to Taylor. Taylor heading for the corner and fumbled. Florida covers it.
Fumble for a first down.
Justin Blackshear, the right guard, is the guy that got down there and covered it.
Kirpakis that time was the end man, either in a linebacker or defensive end position, what you tried to do, and he made the play. Here he is, number 37. He's the guy that made the play on it. And then coming from the secondary, Derek Fox also caused the fumble.
Well, I said it might have been the end of the rotation of quarterbacks. It's not. Jesse Palmer's in there. So Brandeis one play and the freshman the next. He'll give it off to Taylor. Fred Taylor inside the 40 and down to the 39-yard line. Gain of 12.
I had a feeling all three quarterbacks would play. You know, you go watch some college teams practice, Brad, for a game, and only one quarterback will get all the work. At Florida before this game, all three quarterbacks were practicing.
And all three quarters are concluded. 14-6 Florida. Our ABC Sports presentation of the Comp USA Florida Citrus Bowl will continue after this message and a word from our ABC station. First of 3 bowl games today on ABC Sports. The Comp USA Florida Citrus Bowl in Orlando. We're set to start the 4th quarter. Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson, and Dean Blevins along with you as we've got 15 minutes left. And Florida leading 14-6. Kind of a precarious lead that they have held since scoring 2 quick touchdowns in the 1st quarter. And they have been quiet offensively ever since. This guy has not been quiet today. Fred Taylor, though it's not a long run here, he does pick up a couple, and that'll give him 185 on the day. He's already broken the Florida Citrus Bowl record for rushing. Here's the play that sent the Florida quarterback to the sideline.
Coming from the right side of your screen, right about in there, you're going to see the spear. As Johnson goes down, he gets his right arm trapped under his body right there, and I think that could be dangerous. That could be when you pop the clavicle or separate the shoulder.
Here's Palmer, the freshman, back, and he's throwing, and Jacquez Green makes an acrobatic catch. Touchdown, Florida. We haven't heard from Kwesi since the 1st quarter, and he just made a loud bang here in the end zone off the arm of the true freshman, who gets a pat on the back from Steve Spurrier.
Brad, when I came back from practice, who did I tell you had a great arm, was going to be a great quarterback?
Jesse Palmer.
There is no doubt in my mind, this guy has all the tools. He throws as good a pass as you can throw on this one, puts it right on the mark, and Green keeps his balance for 7 points.
Second touchdown pass caught by Green, and Collins Cooper for the point after. He's got it up and good. Here in the opening moments of the 4th quarter. It's Palmer to Green, and it's Florida 21-6. Florida, 14:22 left in the ball game. Jacquez Green just scoring for the Gators on a 37-yard touchdown pass from Jesse Palmer. Robbie Stevenson will tee it up. Penn State will get it back, but now they're trailing 21-6. And time running out on them unless they can get some offense mustered in a hurry. And they have had trouble getting their offense in gear all day long. Kenny Watson and Sam Crenshaw back waiting on the kick. High and short. Sam Crenshaw has to run up on it at the 13-yard line. And got out to about the 28 before he swarmed under. So Penn State now will have to work inside its own 30. Let's check in with John Saunders in New York. John?
Brad, it's time for the Rogaine Bowl Report, and coming up in about 45 minutes, Charles Woodson, the Heisman Trophy winner, getting off the bus and arriving at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. They'll face Washington State with a national championship hanging in the balance. Brad.
So the Cougars hoping for an upset. Right now, the favored Florida Gators leading 21-6 over the Nittany Lions of Penn State. Do or die time almost, Gary, for the Penn State offense. Here's a counter to Eberle. And Eberle breaks a tackle, and he goes out for 12 or 13 yards. for Penn State. Let's check in on the severity on that injury or what we know about Johnson and go to Dean on the sideline.
Well, Brad, we know enough to tell you he won't be back and play, and it's an injury. It's a rotator cuff injury. They'll x-ray it, of course, after the ball game to find out what the extent of the injury is. You're looking at him now with a sweatshirt over it. He has ice underneath that. I can tell you, I had a shoulder that was operated on a year ago. That's a delicate place, and as Gary mentioned earlier, as a pitcher, that's double trouble.
Watch how his right arm gets caught under his body when he gets hit. That's the same exact injury that I had that severely hampered my career as a thrower.
McQuarrie is severely hampered back at the 35-yard line. Elijah Williams on a corner blitz, and he drops him.
I had rotator cuff surgery, came back and played, but my arm was never the same. Let's hope that that is not the same situation for a young Doug Johnson, who had such a bright career in 2 sports.
Tampa Bay Devil Rays, Major League Baseball player in the off football season, if there is such a thing anymore. So we wish Doug the best in whatever rehab it's going to take now for him to get not only back as a Florida Gator, but in his baseball career as well. Second down and 16, meanwhile, for the Penn State offense. Everly in motion out of the backfield. It'll be a draw play. Watson, and he is swarmed under by that Florida defense. Tony George made the hit. You saw a couple of minutes ago the graphic about 50 sacks on the season. That was 4th in the country and 2nd in the country against the run. You put those in combination, that's pretty mean defense.
Well, with all due respect to Steve Spurrier, and usually this offense carries this team in Florida, but this is a better half of the team this year on defense than it is on offense. Steve's doing a little bit more with Mears on offense. He does not have the talent that this defense has.
3rd down and 17. And penalty markers down.
The 2 tackles told each other it was on 1. It was really on 2.
Dead ball. False start. Movement prior to the snap. 5 yards. Replay 3rd down.
That's a first penalty against Penn State. It's been a flag-free football game for the most part today.
I hate to talk about these guys almost for the first time, but Jordan Caruso and Floyd Wedderburn that time, the 2 tackles both moved on 1. They probably talked to each other what the snap count was before they came up. Jordan Caruso, a true freshman, the 2nd in Joe's tenure to start as a true freshman.
McQuarrie again, the heat coming from the corner. He rolls and throws on the run. Everly's down there. 3-man collision. It's broken up. Incomplete. Tico Brown is down there. So's Eli Williams again. And don't forget the Rose Bowl is coming up following our ball game as top-ranked and undefeated Michigan goes for their first national title shot in 50 years.
Well, the theme of this game, unfortunately for Penn State, has been 4th and short, nothing, and 3rd and long, impossible.
That's true. Here comes the punt. Pressure coming on the punter off the side of his foot a little bit. Does take a nice bounce. Jacquez Green picks it up. Dangerous maneuver by Green. And no yardage on the return of a 42-yard kick. Just under 12 minutes left in the ball game. Florida 21-6, leading Penn State with just under 12 minutes to play in the ball game. Both teams, the 10th game of the season.
See this guy right back here, Brad? This is the Maytag quarterback right there. That's Billy Young. Now, he usually signals in the plays, but let's say gone to this alternating quarterback thing, he's out of a job. I promised him I'd get him on, though.
The only problem is he got that great cap contract now, though. He gets to stand over there with his cap on. First down for Florida. Green in motion. He's got 2 touchdown catches today. And here's been the offensive star, even though Jacquez Green is a quick strike artist. Fred Taylor's on his way to 200 yards. Let's check in with John Saunders. John.
Brad, time for the Rogaine Bowl report from the Gator Bowl, North Carolina and Virginia Tech. Chris Keldorf at quarterback hooks up with Octavius Barnes. This one covers 62 yards when they finally got this one going. And the Big East now 0-4 in bowl games. Don't forget, the Rose Bowl is coming up next.
Fred Taylor spins away. He's over 200 now. He's off to the races across midfield. And then backpedals. Cornell brings him down, but he's got 15 more and 34 carries for 212 yards. And as we said, it just seemed like if Florida gave it to Fred Taylor about 30 times, he'd run for about 200 or 300 yards, and he's doing that.
Yeah, and when you consider talking to Steve and talking to the Gator people about Fred Taylor. I mean, here's a guy that kind of got lost in the shuffle the last couple of years with Terry Jackson in there, coming back this year. And he said the difference between him, Fred Taylor, and an Eric Red is Fred Taylor will make more long runs. He said the NFL will love this guy.
Brandeis play fake, rolls and throws, complete. McCaslin, the fullback, makes the catch, and then he stood up by Shino Prater as he picked up about 7.
McCaslin will be one of the 2 tailbacks who will vie for that tailback spot to replace Fred Taylor next year. The other will be Terry Jackson, out this year, but will come back next year to be one of the featured backs.
Don't forget the Rose Bowl following our matchup.
Oh, is that next?
It is next.
Yeah, right. Ready for that one. Big Ten is ready for a big win there, too. You talk about the Big East.
Doug Johnson's ready for the locker room. He's heading in there to get that shoulder and arm looked at. And his day is done. His season was impressive, and we wish him the very best.
There is so much I can tell you from experience. I had 7 surgeries playing quarterback. There is so much that's going through his mind right now. How bad is it? Do I have to have surgery? What's going to happen to my quarterback job? How will it affect my baseball career? This is a tough spot right now before he gets the the doctor's medical checkup of what it's going to be. Everything is going through his mind.
Yep. At the 39 at Penn State, Florida with another first down. Fred Taylor with another run, but only a couple of yards this time as Chris Snyder makes the diving tackle. Fred Taylor, you look at the last 8 games, the last 7 games of the regular season, and now the bowl game here today, and Fred just in the last 8 games had almost 1,000 yards. And a workman-like job today. Boy, that's some kind of performance. His 15th career 100-plus day, and in this case it's a 200-plus, and he's carried it 36 times, and he's already shattered the Florida Citrus Bowl record books in the rushing category. Here's a toss to his replacement, Bo Carroll. And Carroll with fresh legs cut back against the grain, and he slashes down to the 26-yard line.
Well, you can hardly blame Bo Carroll for wanting to get on the playing field. They watched the Michigan State film. They saw Irvin and Mark Renard both rush for over 200 yards. Well, Taylor's got his 200, and now Bo Carroll says, hey, give me a chance. There's still 9 minutes left in this game. I could get it to 100 yards. How about that? 2 straight games, running backs go over 200 yards against this Penn State defense.
And right now, it looks like Penn State's defense are the paper Lions, and Florida's got a book of matches in their hands here with these running backs. Carroll almost broke that one, too. Picked up only 3, but it looked more dangerous than that. Mac Morrison made the tackle. And we're down to 8.5 minutes.
We were talking about the Big Ten. You know, the Big Ten at the top was so well and so strongly constructed with Ohio State at the beginning of the year, Penn State, and ultimately Michigan at the beginning of the year. But you're saying this looks like a paper Lion defense for Penn State. They have been beaten down this year. They do not look like the same team at the beginning. Plus, minus Curtis Enos, that's a disaster.
Carroll. Excuse me, it's Fred Taylor back in there, and Fred's down to the 20-yard line.
Brett, I think something that, you know, you and I have referred to, and Dean brought it up during this game, too. It is tough for the Big Ten teams to come back and basically play on the home field of a Florida football team. You know, who does Florida lose to at home?
Yeah, that's right. Well, the Boilermakers of Purdue survived. Other than that, the Big Ten has been getting kind of slapped around. Wisconsin got pasted today. Iowa got beat up. Penn State's going to lose this one, it appears, as Taylor takes it wide. And, of course, Michigan, that #1 team and the top dog of the Big Ten that Gary was just talking about, is coming up next on ABC Sports.
Michigan State also got destroyed as Noah Brandeis, the guy who came through for this Florida football team this year. When Doug Johnson was suspended, he came through in that Auburn game. He is the guy who started the last 4 teams. He's a walk-on, a former walk-on on this team who's earned a scholarship.
And, you know, we talk all day, obviously, about the quarterback rotation, which went on here until Doug Johnson got hurt. And then Jesse Palmer, the freshman, did come in and threw a touchdown pass to Jacquez Green. And Steve Spurrier, it's known at least around the Southeastern Conference, in that Florida State game where this all started, He said, I was going to use all 3 quarterbacks and rotate all 3 quarterbacks. And he said, the practice before the Florida State game, he said, Jesse started calling signals out there, and it was just mumble mouth. And he said, I knew he was too nervous to pull it off. He said, otherwise, I would have used all 3 guys.
You're right. And, you know, when you run the ball like this, by the way, Florida has all 5 of their backups in the game right now running the ball. You've got to give credit to that offensive line for Florida that played up against Florida State. I didn't think this was possible. Did not give up a sack in that football game.
10th play of this Gator drive. And another first down. And it's Taylor on a cutback inside the 15 to the 14. Let's check in with Dean.
Guys, I've got the Christmas story of the year. Terry Jackson, the injured fullback for Florida, and his big brother Willie Jackson stole the Christmas gifts under their Christmas tree from their mother the night before Christmas. The next morning, Mrs. Jackson came down, noticed they were gone, and went, we're robbed. Well, Terry loads her up, drives over to another home. They conveniently run out of gas as they pull up in front of this home. Mrs. Jackson goes to the door to use the telephone, and Willie opens the door and says, welcome home, Mom. Willie Jackson had just bought her a brand new home. We'll talk to Terry in a moment, and also Mrs. Jackson.
That is the ultimate gift, I would say. And a timeout Florida's going to take here as Brindise didn't like the looks of things.
No, Steve didn't like the look of things.
Okay. Well, now he's going to talk to the referee. I think maybe he's going to say, I didn't call a timeout. I was just trying to use a hand signal.
No, Steve was signaling timeout. He wanted a timeout of that play.
Timeout. No timeout. Quarterback was comfortably.
I don't think so.
Now we'll get another look.
You see Steve signaling timeout from behind.
A little bit of confusion there.
If that's an audible, they got to change their hand signals, because that looks just like a timeout. And Joe said, hey, what's the deal here? Now, how do they get the play over again also? What's going on here?
Okay, here's some more hand signals. Nothing that looks like a timeout call. That was interesting. Taylor. And got a yard or two as we finish off our Christmas story with Dean Blevins.
All right, Terry Jackson's the guy here, injured star. He says he'll be back in the spring, but how in the world did you come up with that idea?
Well, we were thinking of a way that we could surprise her, and I think we had seen The Grinch a few nights before. You know, it's around Christmas time, so that comes on a lot. So Willie came up with the major scheme, and from there we just, you know, ad-libbed and improvised from that point, and it turned out perfect.
All right, we'll catch this play and ask you another question.
Hey, Dean, what did he buy Terry?
Terry got nothing but the smile on Mom's face. 3rd and 6. They show flea flicker again, and Taylor keeps it again and goes inside the 10.
I know you'd love to be out there on this field today. What do you think about your club?
They're doing a great job out there, and I'm glad to see everybody came out and, you know, came out to play hard, and I think we're doing that and end the season on a good note and go good for next year.
All right, very good. We're going to go visit with your mama now.
Okay. All right.
Take care.
All right, you too.
Meanwhile, it's going to be about 2 yards, almost 3 actually, on 4th down coming up.
Well, go good for next year is one thing that Florida has a chance to do it. They only have 4 seniors on offense, and 30 out of their top 50 players are seniors and juniors. They got a lot of young underclassmen here.
Collins Cooper will try the field goal of 26 yards, and he missed it to the left. Well, that sort of leaves the door open, but not the way Penn State's offense has been playing. They will get it back in their hands, though, when we come back. Can come to life here in the 4th quarter. He is saying, hey, they took a timeout, and they should have been charged a timeout. And
absolutely, he's right.
Yep, he is. McQuarrie on 1st down. Pump fakes and wants to go. Dean's got a man in the secondary, just overshot Tikas Pettigrew. That would have been a huge play. That would have made it a ball game because he had a couple steps back there on Weary.
It was a flatten up. The outside receiver ran a curl route. Pettigrew ran to the sideline and then ran up. Weary, who was in his trot all game, didn't believe anybody could beat him, and Pettigrew got him deep, and McQuarrie just threw it just a little too far. Mike McQuarrie has not been on target, short or long today, and you can see the difference when your quarterback isn't on target.
I think it was an omen of things to come at the luncheon the other day when they had autographed footballs that the quarterbacks of both teams threw out to people that had the winning number in the crowd. Poor Mike, a guy, there was two guys like 50 yards in the back of this ballroom that he had to try to throw the ball to who had won footballs. He missed both of those guys too, by the way. Incomplete pass here.
Well, here's a bad day in the pass offense for Penn State. Shafi Fields is starting in this football game as a wide receiver. He has not had a catch in the football game. Tikas Pettigrew has just one catch, and remember that was on third. He had one catch and he got yelled at. That was on 3rd and 10 when he went 9 yards.
Well, we touched on at the beginning of the game, and obviously Joe Paterno would say if you want to talk about Curtis Enos and Joe Juravicius, go talk to somebody else. I have to talk about the guys that are here to play. But the fact is, they lost almost 2,400 yards of offense and 30 touchdowns between those two missing ingredients today, and that's pretty obvious with what's going on here for their offense today. Here's a blitz. McQueary lets go of the ball, and it's intercepted.
Oh, my.
Eli Williams shows why he's the other All-American type corner on the opposite side of Weary.
Eli Williams was a running back a year ago, Brad. Whew. An offensive player who went to the defense to not only help out Florida, but Steve said if you want to play pro ball, you're going to make it as a corner. He went over there, and from the first day, he beat Shafi Fields to this ball. What a catch. Wrong shoulder, barely saw it, and comes up with it.
The last 2 years, he was their leading rusher, and now he's got his second interception of the season, got his first one of his career against the Georgia Bulldogs, and that was an acrobatic beauty right there. 4:29 left in the ball game. The Citrus Bowl brought to you by CompUSA. With access to over 50,000 computer products, CompUSA is the computer superstore. By Rogaine Extra Strength for Men. Dr. Pepper and your local Dr. Pepper bottler. Dr. Pepper, this is the taste. And by Ford Taurus. Have you driven a Ford lately? Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson, and Dean Blevins in Orlando with 4:29 remaining in the ball game, and Florida in command here in the fourth quarter, 41-6, after the interception by Elijah Williams has given it back to their offense with what might have been Penn State's offense last gasp in this ball game. And they're still hitting on defense out there. Fleischhauer, the nose tackle, puts a hit on Fred Taylor, who has had a remarkable game. 42 rushing attempts is a school record, as Eric Rett had 41 before in his career that we talked about. And today, Fred Taylor has topped it. And the quarterback shuffle continues as Palmer comes back in there. Jesse with a touchdown pass to Kwesi Green today. Second down and 10, Florida. Two tight end set, both wide outs to the top of your screen as Fred Taylor takes it. And a couple more yards for Taylor. Let's check in with Dean again.
Well, here she is, Delphine Jackson. How was it the day you drove over and they said, here's home, Mom, welcome?
I was devastated. I was totally shocked, totally surprised. They really got me good. I knew nothing about it. I was excited and just shocked.
Well, you have two wonderful kids who played at Florida. Of course, one here now. Willie, before the fans are up here saying, can you bring some more on?
I just have my grandson.
One other note. Willie Sr. was the first black athlete at the University of Florida back in 1970. What a family of contributors to the University of Florida. Thank you, ma'am. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Thank you. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Mrs. Jackson, Mrs. Collins. It shows you why we got some fine young men out on the football field here today for both teams. And Fred Taylor just keeps on motoring. 44 carries.
Now they're going to wipe this one out. Aaron Kinney was holding in the back. But, you know, people sometimes think the way it is now is the way it always has been. But if you look, Florida under Steve Spurrier, before he got here, this wasn't the greatest of all jobs here. You know, a lot of coaches have been through. Not much had happened. But BS is different than AS after this one. There's no BS in that answer
you got
either.
That right.
Because after Steve got here, things changed, and some people can teach and some people can communicate, and Steve can do that. He has won wherever he has been. His coaching job, I think, this year against Florida State might have been his finest.
Well, a lot of people don't always agree with him, but I like being around the guy.
I do too.
I said the other day I like spicy food, and he's a guy that spices it up. Third down and 19 now as the penalty negated that game. And here's a draw play to Carroll. He got it back to about the 45.
You know, Penn State's defense has played, I think, pretty well in this football game. 2 big plays, the 2 touchdowns. One was a perfect throw by Palmer, and the other one was perfect coverage, but Green just took it away. I think Sandusky, if he was going to do it all over again, Jerry would do the exact same defensive style. What will happen in the future for Penn State, though? Changes have to be made. Joe Paterno talked about it. Jerry, I think, hinted with us that things have to change there. They have to find new ways to stop the game. You know, Penn State made a lot of people in the Big Ten change how they looked at Big Ten football. They proved that you can go 12-0 and challenge for the national championship. Ohio State took up the reins, and now Michigan is doing it.
They've taught the other teams how to do it.
Absolutely. And Florida has done the same thing in the Southeastern Conference. Steve Spurrier came into a stodgy, run-orientated Southeastern Conference team and put the ball up, and everyone has had to change. Now, Penn State is going to have to change to stay up with the rest of the Big Ten, I think.
Florida State did it in the ACC, and you'll see them tonight against another Big Ten team. That'll be our 3rd of 3. They go for the block punt and didn't get there. And this time Florida is going to get down inside the 5 to down the ball. So picture perfect special teams performance there. They almost got the last one, and this time they do down it at the 3-yard line. Monday night on ABC, will win his 10th game of the season. And that is going to be for the 5th straight year, and it'll ensure that they will finish in the top 10 in the country for the 7th straight year. And Florida State's the only other team in the nation that can make that claim right now, by the way. McQuarrie running for his life in his own end zone. Throws intended for Nastasi and out of bounds. Mike McQuarrie's been running for his life today. He's been throwing off his back foot, his front foot. It doesn't matter what foot he throws off of. The Florida defense is waiting for him. And Penn State's going to drop to 9-3. Their losses will have come to the 2 schools in Michigan, the Spartans and the undefeated Wolverines, who you'll see next. And now to a highly touted Florida Gator team. McQuarrie had to let go of that one, and nobody even near it as far as an offensive player. Tyrone Baker, the cornerback for the Gators, was the closest.
Florida has not had a lot of sacks on McQuarrie this game, but the pressure has been good enough considering the fact that Penn State is keeping in their tight end and their backs most of the time, only sending out 2, sometimes 3 receivers.
And it's going to bring up 3rd down and 10. Joe Paterno will still be with 18 bowl victories when this one's over. That's still more than anybody's ever won in postseason. Draw play. Ooh, almost a safety there. Tried to sneak Kenny Watson through there. There's no sneaking against Willie Rogers and Johnny Rutledge and those guys.
Well, that's amazing. Willie Rogers that time, the rush in, just smelled that play out on his stunt and just almost got it for a safety.
And an injured Gator.
Oh, it's Reggie McGrew again. He's had a tough luck season also this year.
I guess Johnsonitis on the turf, and they're going to help him up.
A lot of the backups in now for this Florida defense, but as we talked about before, a lot of competition on this football team, and the backups pretty good football players also.
They are, that's for sure. Punt coming up from Penn State, as Pigeon will be in his own end zone. And you just look at where he has to punt from, and you look at the guy that's on the other end waiting for it, and you think, well, you can just see Jacquez Green, maybe his last appearance in a Gator uniform. He could snare this thing and take it the distance. He's going to have to backpedal just to get to it, though. Back to the 48-yard line. Wesley looking for a block. Got 1, got 2, got the corner. The punter to beat, flag down. And he goes down the sideline, lateral.
Oh, what a great play.
And it's all going to come back, I think, with apparently a clip. But I just had a feeling.
I didn't think that was a clip either, though. I thought that was a great play, timed perfectly that time by the Florida player to wait just long enough.
Block in the back on the return team.
Demetrius Lewis is the guy they called the clip on, And I thought he waited long enough to set up this play. He was motioning the whole time, coming from the left side of the screen right here. Jaquez sets up the block. And he got his head across that time. That was a great play. Steve Spurrier tossed his visor on it. Now watch Green at the end of this play. He knows he's going to go out of bounds. He tries to save a touchdown by pitching the ball out. Watch this. I'm going to go out of bounds. Oh, man. Is that pretty?
It was fun to watch, but it all comes back with a minute and a half left. And the Gators in control. Low in total yardage, and the Florida defense has really done a number today on the Penn State offense that came in shorthanded anyway. And Florida's defense, as Gary mentioned earlier, more talented right now than even the offense that has been in such high gear since Steve Spurrier's arrival.
The fans in the crowd are chanting SEC right now.
Yeah.
And you can still see that burns bright, that Southern football against that Northern Big Ten, boy.
And they have pretty good success in this bowl game against teams in the Big Ten. Carroll dropped as he was hit by Mike Buzzen in the backfield. Boy, you talk about finishing in the top 10 in the country 7 straight years. You have done your work.
Steve has already told us that they're having their best recruiting year, more commitments at this time of the year than any time, and that means it's good for that guy because he can actually wear that outfit right now to the next thing he'll be doing, which is going out to the golf course. He'll probably go hit some balls today.
Yep. Well, his son in the Pro-Am here at the bowl game golf tournament hit a hole-in-one the other day.
That was an omen, wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess it was. Carroll got out to the 42. That's about it.
Interestingly enough, I think Penn State played about as well as they could play in this football game.
And still they're going to come up short 21-6. College football today, technical directors Gary Boyarsky. Our college football today directed by Calvin Haywood. Charles Copland, the producer of that show. Our sideline coordinator today, Bavu Blakes. Our computer stats by Mike Copland. My spotters, Clint Deans, Pat McGrath. PTR McGrath, our statistician as always. Assistants to the producer today, Kevin D. Miller and John Hirsch. Dennis Zabo, our technical operations manager. Production manager, Joe Kemp. Our associate producers, Bruce Clark, Brian Gordon. Our AD, Rich Gelber, the technical director. Today's game directed by Norm Samet, produced by Kim Belton, and the coordinating producer of ABC's college football is Tony Tortorisi. That is going to do it for our season at our Comp USA Florida Citrus Bowl. And Joe gets the visor, and you can see the friendship between those two guys and the mutual respect. They really enjoy each other's company. And Spurrier having some fun as he wins the bowl game today. 21-6 is the final. Well, that's kind of a fun way to end it, as Steve Spurrier's team goes to 10-2.
Well, we talked about what made up this offense. It's not fun and gun. It's repetition, number one. You got something going, keep using it. Today, it was Freddie Taylor. Next up, it's precision, and they showed it today in the passing game. Jaquez Green had 2 touchdown passes. That's the precision that makes it so tough to stop. And the communication, it comes right down from the top. You do it his way or you don't play, but it's all built upon one thing. They got plenty of good players. The competition is there. The backup freshman quarterback came in to throw it. This is the complete team. It's not fun and gun. It's precise.
It's been fun, partner. Our 6th year comes to a close. For Dean Blevins and Garrett Danielson, I'm Brad Nessler for our entire ABC crew. Thanks for joining us from Orlando. Don't forget, the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all, is next. Let's go to John Saunders in